Bev's Video Kingdom is brought to you by Sandpaper Drumsticks. Sandpaper Drumsticks are the only stick with the no callus guarantee. Our drumsticks deliver that ultimate sound you'll need to turn the tempo up to 300 beats per minute. And not only that, but sandpaper sticks are guaranteed to never build up any sort of callus, so you can be sure that your hands will dramatically bleed each and every time you pick up the sticks. What better way to show you are nailing that 5-minute solo than beautiful red droplets of blood splashing around your kit and dripping all over the third chair bassoonist? Sandpaper drumsticks come in a handy blood red carrying case with GPS tracking. Because if you're going to get that seat at the kit, you better have some fucking sticks.
Bassoonist.
This place is nice.
I really like the music that they play. Bob Ellis on the drums. I'm part of Schaefer's Top Jazz Orchestra. It's the best music school in the country.
The key is to just relax. Don't worry about the numbers. Don't worry about what the other guys are thinking. You're here for a reason. Have fun. 5, 6, and.
I want to be great.
And you're not.
We got Buddy Rich here. Little trouble there. You're rushing. Here we go. 5, 6, and. Were you rushing or were you dragging?
I don't know.
If you deliberately sabotage my band, I will gut you like a pig.
Oh, my dear God. Are you one of those single-tier people?
You are a worthless pansy ass who is now weeping and slobbering all over my drum set like a 9-year-old girl.
So how's it going with the studio band?
Good. Yeah, I think he likes me more now.
I push people beyond what's expected of them. I believe that is an absolute necessity.
I want to be one of the greats. And because I'm doing that, it's going to take up more of my time. And this is why I don't think that we should be together.
I would never let him put my son through hell. Why would you let him get away with what he did to you?
There are no 2 words in the English language more harmful than good job.
That music kind of makes it seem like a horror movie for a second. They're like, dun dun.
That's a good trailer. That's a legit trailer.
That's a legit trailer.
I wanna be at Beverly's, bringing me home with my movies, just a blind by, no reason why. I love this scene. Nick Nazak and Brad, your favorite podcast. Let's start this thing.
All right, so we are on. Welcome, Bev's Video Kingdom. This is Whiplash. Thank you guys. I'm here with Zach, Brad, and Nate. And we're going to have a special guest later on in the episode. No spoilers, so hang in there and hang out for our draft at the end of this episode of Bev's. Whiplash. This was my choice this week, directed by Damien Chazelle. But released October 15, 2014, budget of $3.3 million. Gross worldwide, ultimately $49.3 million. Ended up turning out pretty good as time went by. Runtime, a nice, taut hour 46 minutes. I saw this right when it came out in our local state theater here, where they actually show indie movies. And I'm a big Apple trailers guy still, even though it's getting thinner and thinner these days, thanks to streaming and thanks to COVID.
Was this an indie movie?
Yes,
Really?
100%. And I could not wait to see this movie. And I called along my brother, his wife, my cousin. Matt came along with Heather. And I was at a little, not a short background on me, oil painter, aspiring artist before I got sold out and tacked on to the 9-to-5 job, which I am now. when this movie came out,
Don't skip over your time as a tromboner.
and
Trombonist.
I'm building to the trombone.
I'm sorry. I apologize.
Right now.
I'm sequentially. I'm going back slowly.
I just wanted to make sure we weren't going to skip that.
It's like Memento. I'm working forwards and backwards.
Award-winning solo
And from the
artist
middle.
at the Santa Cruz Beach Boardwalk Jazz Festival.
You remember that. That means a lot to me. Nate said in the intro, we've known each other since 3rd grade, and that's proof of it right there. Yes. Thank you, Zach. I have a tear rolling down my cheek. I'm one of those one tear guys.
You see a double rainbow, Nick?
Zach's my double rainbow. But aspiring oil painter and sitting in a room hour after hour painting pictures, bordering on, the kind of obsession that goes with any type in most art, if you're going to try and do that as a career path or think that you're going to. Definitely spoke to me when I saw the movie. So obviously my life has changed. What's up, Zach?
Speaking of painting, how many times have you painted so hard that you bled?
I was just gonna say,
your hands.
Does he ever just fucking bleed on
just
the canvas?
fucking shading?
He's like,
so
I need
hard.
red, and it's exactly the color of my blood.
I'm on a deadline here.
Good thing I'm painting at 300 beats per minute.
Painted until I.
My
bled
soul
last
was
night.
bleeding, bro.
Sorry, go ahead.
Soul.
Go ahead.
I was bleeding onto the canvas.
You were getting the
my
trombonist.
paintbrush was bleeding onto the canvas.
Tromboneer.
But it was a big impact. The movie didn't disappoint. It felt, as I became more of a Fincher fan, it felt like it should have been directed by Fincher, even though I'm a big fan of Chazelle. But I got questions for, is this a better movie if Fincher directs it? Opening credits remind me of Social Network. If you put the Social Network tune to the opening credits, it reads almost the same. It shows you your setting. It shows Andrew walking along the streets, showing you where you're at, where this is set.
I've got something to say about that a little bit later.
Okay, it's shot in the same tone, color-wise. It's dark. But Giselle is a badass. He shot this in 19 days. At the time, he was 28, I believe. And we're going to get into that as we get into Shag Snack Body Bag. Had a big impact. So the movie left me jaw dropped. I looked to my side, I looked to my left and my right with my family, and that last sequence of the drum solo and everyone's kind of jaw was to the floor. And it was, I don't do that a lot in movies where at the climax you're looking around to see what people's reactions are. And I actually did that in the final scene, and I was and it was really cool to see their faces. And no matter what little flaws and some of the how far they push JK Simmons' character, I enjoy watching this movie. It is a rewatch for me. Miles Teller is amazing, and yeah, I want to know what you guys think. I can't wait to hear what you guys think. So Nate.
Speaking of the trailer, so funny enough, I first thought this movie was like a thriller horror movie because I saw some. I think initially it was but I saw like a small version of the trailer, and that scared me away because I literally was scared away. So I was like, I'm not gonna watch that shit like some sort of psycho, that's my jam, So it took a minute for some people to reassure me, and so I have seen it. I'm one of them. I think you two hadn't, right, Zach and Brad?
I had not.
Yeah, so I loved it the first time I saw it, and I loved it again on this rewatch. I think these are the only times I've seen it. And one of the things I was thinking about is it's an interesting movie that like is real dark, but has a sort of like complicated, but as Zach put it at some point, a Disney ending. I mean, there's a sense in which like it has that like you get the tingles, you get the feels, kind of a little bit of a hero's ending,
like a sports movie.
A little bit of a sports movie. Yeah,
this was Nick's pick, but it's a very Nate ending for sure.
Yeah, so
but it's also Zach ending too, though. Like that's the cool thing about it. Like if you actually, we'll talk about it because
I'll give you your Zach ending later.
I'd like to hear that take because
okay, all right.
Yeah, so I mean I love the movie. I think it's great. I think it was every bit as good and maybe better on the second watch. But I realized it'd been long enough. I thought about all the same shit. And I think it's a great movie in and of itself. But it tackles like a question in a really central way that better than a lot of movies zero in on a question. Right. The way some people talk about it is like the means ends thing, and I don't really love that as the characterization here. But like. It's like, does the end of him being this like genius, drummer potentially justify the means? I actually think that the more interesting question is one that's like less about whether it justifies it and more about whether or not, in fact, you ever get people that are that great without some version of Fletcher. Right. So like I think, and I'll be happily later play the devil's advocate, but that for me was the thing over and over again. I started thinking like you always have somebody that is obsessive in your path. The true greats, right? I'm not talking about people that are like, make the NBA. I'm talking about Michael Jordan. I'm not talking about people that like, are professional musicians. I'm talking about the people that are the greatest of all time.
That's the parallel, though. I mean, that's the argument that goes into something that we've all been talking about recently, which is the Jordan documentary and whether or not you have to be a dickhead to bring greatness. You know what I mean?
I bet Kwame Brown says no.
Or flash images of being a dickhead, because by no means was Michael Jordan always and just like in deep down a dickhead. I don't believe he is.
No, but what I'm saying is,
I know
he definitely had some.
He had to turn it on. He had to
JK
turn on
Simmons
the asshole
in him. You know what I mean? He thought he was going to bring the best out of people by calling them gay slurs. Which, I mean,
MJ, I do not stand with.
I mean, Jordan was a known gay slur. Are we going to get sued by Jordan's people?
No, I doubt it.
It's not making the pod.
We weren't going for the Nike sponsorship.
It ain't making the pod.
Well, I guess so. Let me say it a little differently. Let's ignore the part about being sort of a dick, and all I'm saying is, you don't get to that level without a lack of like perspective, without a total obsessiveness, right? Like that for me, it's less about Fletcher. Like the fact that he's such an asshole is only incidentally about the fact that he's an asshole, and more that he thinks that the ends justify the means. Not even a question whether they do, right? It's that you find somebody along the way, whether it's basketball or music or writing or politics or whatever, who's like, oh yeah, no, this shit's the most important thing that anyone could ever do in the whole world, and you should spend all your time doing it, and if you don't do it the best you can possibly do it, you're a total failure of a human being, right? Most people look at that, even people that have the natural skill set, and go, man, that's a fucking terrible life. And in fact, like, probably that really isn't the best and most important thing you can do, but like in order to be truly great at something, you have to not only be yourself that way, but you have to have someone else who's like willing to push you. And I don't think you can fake that. Right.
Well, it's two obsessives combined, like colliding.
That's exactly
he's obsessed with finding this next huge, legendary act. And now there's a kid that wants to be that role, and they're going to just run into each other.
I mean, like the conversation he has with the girl, right? Like, it's like, you're just like, that's not normal shit right there for a freshman in college.
Were they reaching for him being like somewhere on the spectrum? Like, was that,
No.
You don't think when they talked to Miles Teller in his punchable face, they were like, hey,
I think it was just flawed. I think it was that everyone is either extremely or slightly flawed, because even the girl kind of jumps on him in the first date, which was kind of off-putting. Like, he's just asking her
she did touch his toe with her toe. I wouldn't say she jumped on him.
I wasn't referring to the toe. He asked her he asked what her major was, and she got pissed at him for asking what her major was.
Well,
he was just like creating conversation. It was just kind of.
I want to address that scene in a little bit later.
I guess my whole thing with the movie is, as educators, say hypothetically you guys were educators. Different kids respond to different stuff, right? So you could take this kid that is a genius and immediately turn them off and get them out of the business, like he did to Miles Teller. Say he doesn't run into him at that club, and then get the chance to try to embarrass him, and then he does, the whole scene. We'll get into it.
Well, but I think that's Fletcher's point, though, is that like if you get shoved away, you were never going to be great in the first place.
Right.
If all it takes is me calling you gay slurs and talking about your absentee mother to get you to quit band,
it was meant to be.
I mean,
I'm not.
But I mean, that's another. I
with
mean, this is
that.
another.
That's
I mean, this is an
philosophy.
extreme version of it. But teachers constantly talk about how difficult it is to decide who to teach to. Right. I mean, this is an extreme version of it, but you have some version about this in every single classroom any teacher is ever in. There is a range of abilities, and there are certain choices you make that inevitably do not optimize for every student in the class. And so my sense is, right, that like some classes require that you try to teach to the bottom and some to the top, and some, you know, teachers are going to always teach to the middle. And I'm just saying, like, this is an interesting example of a teacher who, if we set aside all the horribleness, right, like this is the thing that, on the one hand, I don't want to totally set that aside because I think that makes it in some ways more interesting, but we all know, you know, versions of this. I mean, every one of us probably has had a version of this, right? You and I had a coach, a basketball coach, you know, that we felt this way about.
It's a terrible human.
You know, terrible human. But he wasn't this, right? He wasn't great like this either. No. But my point is, but we felt that way, right? We felt constantly pressured about it. And I certainly had other teachers and mentors where, like, I felt like I didn't want to fail, let him down. I didn't want to, you know, be embarrassed.
But he was a terrible dickhead, right?
Yeah.
Terrible dickhead.
Yeah.
Pushed super hard.
Yeah.
We didn't give up.
Yeah.
How many years have you been playing in the NBA?
We're on 17 now.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly my fucking point.
3 rings.
Yeah. No, I get it. Well, anyway.
So, I mean, to get to what you guys can, Brad, what was your like take? Like, did you enjoy it? What was your take on Whiplash?
You know, I enjoyed it. Actually, I don't think I'd ever really watched the trailer, but watching that trailer, I was like, the trailer, not that it wasn't a good movie, but the trailer makes it seem like I'm going to be like, holy shit, this is like one of the best movies ever. Yeah. And after watching it, there was just a few things that I had problems with that I get that way with certain movies. If something starts to bother me, it eats at me the entire movie, and I start to lose enjoyment. I know I said at one point, it was like 38 minutes in, and I kind of wrote down a note like, how much longer can this movie be? Like, I felt like it was just like, but then it started to kind of kick in a little bit, and so then it started to be okay. But like at 38 minutes in, I was just kind of like, where are we going with this? Like, okay, this dude's a dick. He's trying to be the best.
Okay.
I don't know. But at the same time, JK Simmons, I mean, we'll talk about that in a second, I'm sure. But yeah, I mean, there's some great acting performances. And the ending, the ambiguity of it, okay, I can dig it. But as a teacher, how fast would this dude be like kicked out? If this was set in the 70s, I think I would be way more into it, because then you don't have social media, you don't have as much, like, I feel like a teacher could possibly get away with this. But set in the more like present day, it just, that shit's not going to fly. College kids
iPhones out and video.
Somebody's getting filmed. So this shit's not going to happen.
Judging by his phone, his shorts, and several other things in the movie, what year is this movie supposed to be set in?
I mean, they say that it's supposed to be like the present day, like 2014 or 16 or whatever.
Is that when this movie came out? 2016?
14.
Yeah, those were some 2000 shorts and some 2006 telephone.
So on to really quick, Zach, your take on the movie.
My take on the movie is summed up in the, basically, I enjoyed it. I watched it with my wife, and during the climactic drum solo, she decided it's too much. I can't watch it anymore. And she walked out of the room during the climactic drum solo because it was a lot of drumming. It was a lot of drumming. It was a lot of loud. Yeah, it was a lot of loud drumming.
Fuck this shit.
She wasn't into it, and I didn't get to that point, but I don't know, man. I liked it. I like JK Simmons. I don't like Miles Teller, but that really had nothing to do with it. I think he was fine in this movie. I don't know. I struggled with it. We'll get into it later in some of the other categories.
All right, we are moving on to our first category: shag, snag, body bag. Little quick description. Shag, referring to moments in the movie that give you the chills, that you are just passionate about, your love for, your lust for.
It might not even be moments either. Like, it could be sometimes it's a
inspires
character
you to think
or
about
like
something that
an actor, something in the movie that you're like, I want to shoot that straight up, like in the main vein. You know what I'm saying?
This is the shag category.
Yes.
Yeah, you want to shoot something in
it. Snag. Want to put a ring on it. You want to put a ring on it. You want it with you forever, and you don't want it to leave you. It makes you nice, warm, and fuzzy inside.
So me, it's like, if I'm going to tell somebody why this movie's great, it's like, this is the one thing I'm going to give them, right? Like, this is the thing that I'm taking away.
Mm-hmm. And then body bag, obviously self-explanatory. Put it in a body bag. Put him in a body bag, Johnny.
Sweep the leg.
You hate it. or you dislike it highly. And yeah,
All right.
want to add anything else? That's good.
Let's get at it.
Shag. We're going to talk about what we want to shag from the movie. Zach, let's wrap around right back to you.
My shag is going to be probably a popular pick, and it's going to be JK Simmons. The guy plays a dick extraordinarily. Is that the word? Extraordinarily? I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing that correctly, but he's great. I really dig him. He, I mean, if this movie is 1993 even, he could probably keep his job. If it's 1998, he could keep his job. 2002, he probably keeps his job. But anything after that, the guy gets fired immediately. And I had trouble believing some of the super nice to super dick back and forth. I feel like if you're a dick, you're a dick. And I don't think anybody's playing that long game to where they're like, he was so nice to him in the hallway before he went out there. Do you know what I mean? Like, I don't know. I mean, I'm sure he's playing mind games, but I mean, was he doing that to all of them? Was he doing that to the third chair fucking saxophone? You know what I mean? The tromboner? One of my favorite parts in the movie is when he's like, bones, when he calls the trombones bones. I loved that. That was probably the highlight of the movie for me. What do you got, Brad?
My shag is actually because my brother started off as drummer, and he's a pretty talented drummer, and he introduced me to Buddy Rich back in the day, and then once the YouTube got around, would show me all sorts of cool clips of Buddy Rich, not just playing the drums like a maniac, but just being a dickhead to his band, like being a clown on talk shows. I guess there was a lot of the big talk show hosts loved having Buddy Rich on because not only was he going to play you some awesome music, but he also was a character, like
TV personality.
Oh yeah, just a big time character. But there was some classic footage of him just ripping his band, like I mean F-bombs, cussing them out, just going off on them. And so I think there was some Buddy Rich put into JK Simmons' character, but Buddy Rich, he's worth about your 10, 15 minutes on YouTube watching some of his solos and stuff. It's just insanity. Like, I mean, the speed that guy brings to the drum set is, and there's a bunch of battles. He has a bunch of battles against different famous drummers and stuff. And
does he ever bleed on the drum set? Or?
He sweats like a pig.
Bullshit.
But
Bullshit.
Don't see much blood flying.
He didn't bleed. It's bullshit.
But yeah, no, Buddy Rich is my shag for sure.
Nice.
I'm Buddy Rich when I fly off the handle.
So I would have said maybe Simmons, but I have a slightly different take. We can get into Simmons a little later, but my response to you, Zach.
Let's get into it.
I mean, I guess I disagree with the like. I don't think you could be the night like. You could be a little bit nice here and a little bit and just a total dick for two reasons. One, I think could be manipulative. I mean, it's manipulative is the way I read it, right? He's intentionally being manipulative. But two, this is the deal, right? I mean, a lot of, I just see people, even the worst of the people, as being always a little bit gray, I mean, nobody's truly horrible all the time.
It's
everybody.
too movie to be horrible all the time. You're a cartoon character if you're horrible all the time.
Yeah.
So for him to show that is more human.
The people that I know are dickheads all the time.
They're not.
So what no, dude, no.
They're not.
See, I just don't take, that's not my experience. But I would also say though, the thing I don't like about it is like, I think it's too over the abusive, like, the choice of abuse is too much. If I have to, like, maybe I'll wait and shag and body bag it. But
the incredibly targeted, like, too specific, like, mother stuff.
That stuff, like somebody pointed out, like, I just kicked that guy's fucking ass. Like we would fight immediately, right? Like I remember an incident with said basketball coach that we mentioned where like I thought I was going to fight him for things that were much less offensive than that.
Much less offensive.
Okay, so my actual I'm going to shag the final scene, man. Like I really as predicted, right? Like I just dug it so much, dude. It totally gives you the chills. It feels like a appropriate climax for the movie, but it just gives you it's a home run for me. So I'll watch that over and over again, and just get that adrenaline rush.
And I'm gonna follow Zach, come back to Zach's with Simmons. So he was my shag, won the Oscar for Best Supporting Actor for this role. I think he won a shit ton of awards. I think I was reading like an article. It was like, it's
crazy.
Crazy.
Yeah.
And he deserved him too. He's great.
He's
100%. And I'm also with you, Nate, about the use and like the little too scripted, ready, came off the tongue way too smooth and way too long rambling of insults. At a certain point, if you were, that would definitely be someone. So we'll get there. But one of my favorite scenes of JK Simmons, as far as like the acting, is when he tells the band about the ex-student that's passed away, when really that starts to fuck with your head as far as the psychological thriller. I feel like that's when it kicks into the psychological thriller side with what the fuck is this guy doing to us and every student in there? Like, is he guilty? Does he feel 100% guilty that this guy killed himself? Is he acting? Which I don't think he's acting.
But you don't know when he first makes that monologue about the kid. You think he dies in a car accident. And it has nothing to do with him.
But
yes,
he
exactly.
lies.
But that's like almost you like feel empathy for him.
Right.
You're
until
like,
you
maybe
learn
his
later.
Thing does work.
And then you learn later that he had actually committed suicide. So then you go back, and then when you rewatch.
See, that scene still doesn't make sense to me, because why? If it's apparent that the kid hung, there's a big difference between, like, I thought when they said, like, oh, he committed suicide, like, oh, he drove his car intentionally into something. No, it says he hung himself. So I'm like, everybody's going to find that out. So how is he lying about that when...
This is not a famous person, though. I mean, he's just talking about a random person. I think he's thinking no one's going to look into this shit.
It's not going to be in the newspapers.
Well, no, I don't know, because he said he became a really talented and famous musician that was, like, for, like, a big, like, symphony in town.
Yeah, but I mean, name one fucking big symphony music.
If you're in that realm, though, if you're at the Schaefer School of Music, you know some shit.
I just thought the scene actually did opposite of bug me, and I thought I just added a layer.
I agree.
I thought I added a layer to his character. I think it was totally needed, because the less there is of that, the more he's a cartoon character.
But that's my point. I mean, he invokes some empathy in you during that scene when you're like, oh man, he really does care.
Which I feel the movie needed. I feel like it needed
Agreed.
that, to where at the end you actually give a shit that you see him smile. You see like just the top of his eyes. You see him smile, and for a split second, you're looking for the reassurance that Andrew's looking for when he finishes his solo. And then right when the credits, you're like, oh fuck him.
Yeah.
Like, fuck this guy. I don't give a fuck what he thinks. Good for Andrew. But, all right. Good shit. Moving on. Snag. What are you guys snagging? Nate, what do you want to snag?
So I'm going to swim upstream here. I like me some fucking Miles Teller.
Yes, sir.
I like Miles Teller in almost everything Miles Teller's in. I do not want to punch him in the face. I do want to hang out with him.
Four? Like, what are the movies that
Actually, I've never seen that one. So there's one called, speaking of the Aaron, we were, someone mentioned earlier that he's hanging with Aaron Rodgers and Shailene Woodley, who's his new wife.
Love me some Shailene Woodley.
The reason that they're hanging out is because they're in a movie that's great called The Spectacular Now, coming of age. And it's super solid, really good, great Miles Teller. He's also in one called, now I'm
Bleed for This. Which
he's
I
in
like,
Bleed for This,
which
isn't bad. Yeah, he's pretty good in War Dogs, right? Which is kind of a fun one. I just like him.
I like him in War Dogs.
Plus, he's from Lecanto, Florida, which is like the rival high school for my wife. So there's an outside chance I'm going to get to hang with him sometime, and like I want to put in a good word.
It's definitely going to happen. You, Aaron Rodgers, Shailene Woodley, and Miles Teller.
He's like my BFF free pass, like famous free pass.
All right, so Miles is your snag. Bradley.
I don't need to say much because I snagged JK Simmons because I mean that's a, not that JK Simmons wasn't well known before. I mean he's very much almost a that guy back in the day, but I mean with that role it's just like boom, he put himself on the map as I've got some acting chops and I can play ripped. I mean, for an older dude, he's kind of ripped. Like, I mean, kind of jacked, and that kind of adds to the intimidation factor. But yeah, puts on a hell of a performance, and I just like see him in Allstate commercials, whatever he's in. I'm like, JK Simmons.
What do you guys think? Do you guys think when he told him be there at 6 a.m. and this fucking guy shows up at like 6:36, you think he knew kid was late? Because it was kind of implied that he didn't know, and that class didn't start till 9, and he didn't know.
It was just a prank. Yeah, it seemed like something that the kids would do, like the fellow students would do that prank rather than the teacher.
Like Shooter McGavin. It's
I
like
was
a Shooter
waiting
McGavin
the whole
prank.
time for him to be like, get the fuck out of my classroom.
Was it the 17th hole?
17th hole at 9. All right, Zach, what you got, man?
What are we on, snag?
We're on snagging.
So my snag is the moment where he decides to grow some nuts, and as like a fucking long shorts wearing fat faced kid,
Goldberg his ass.
Yeah, goes up to the cute girl at the.
Oh, I thought you were talking about when he tackled.
No,
Simmons.
no.
Goldberg her ass.
When he spears
sorry.
him, yeah. When he goes and decides he's gonna ask the cute girl at the movie theater out. I fucking love that shit. And I love the awkward and the shit that only happens in the movies where the girl actually agrees to go out with him.
Dude,
I fucks with them a little bit in the process.
Hard disagree though. I'm 100% on board with this. Anytime a guy in a movie is like willing to be like, I just think you're pretty, like straight up, that throws girls off. Like that's like a.
But that's pretty like.
That's
like
you gotta send
like
them an unsolicited dick pic first, and then throw in that you think they're pretty.
Follow it over the old one too.
But that's my snag. I love those scenes in movies. It makes me so uncomfortable, and it makes me feel like I'm right there with Miles while he's talking to this chick at the movie.
Yeah, we've all been there.
Exactly.
That's a good one.
You're really pretty.
Yeah.
All right, I'm snagging Damien Chazelle, the director. Threw out a couple of stats on him really quick. Made the movie 19 days, 28 years old. He's the youngest director to be nominated at the time.
So this did not win Best Picture.
This did not.
Okay.
2 years later, he made La La Land. He was the youngest to be nominated, and then he was the youngest to win Best Director for La La Land, which he made 2 or 3 years later. The scope, the span and the difference between the two films is also really impressive. I don't know if you've seen La La Land. I actually like it, but if you're not a fan of musicals, then it's an uphill battle. But music, based on only similarity there. Made the movie in 19 days. He hand drew 150 storyboards himself, getting ready for the movie. He got in a car accident while shooting and was back on set the next day. Kind of like Andrew, just a young badass, and he ended up making First Man with Gosling after La La Land. So he went on this streak for, I think it was every 2 or 3 years. He made these 3 films, and so, I mean, First Man, I need to rewatch. I'm not sure about it. I'm undecided. But I'm a big fan. I'm a big fan of just his scope and what he's capable of, and the fact that if he's going to be, inspired by Fincher, then I'm willing. If he's going to be inspired by him, then I'm not. I don't want him to copy it. But he said something in an interview where he's down to copy the great directors. He has nothing against. He feels like artists. He has nothing against copying great artists as long as you kind of make it your own. So, Chazelle, that's my pick.
Is this a better movie if he gets Gosling instead of Miles Teller, or is Gosling too pretty?
I think he's too big. I think he's too pretty.
Teller, too good.
If you watch the short, too, the actor that plays Andrew's thing, like, watch that, and then you will thank God that Miles Teller is the actor in Whiplash. Just watch it, and then you might like Miles Teller after it. Okay, so we're on the body bag. Brad, start us off with what's your body bag?
So we were talking about this, and you just brought up Fincher, which is good because thinking that he's going to be copying other directors, the 2 scenes, the diner scenes, and then the scene, the dinner at home, both just, well, the diner scene in particular with the girl when he kind of breaks up with her, it was just the awkward scene in Social Network. I mean, that's exactly what it was. It was pretty much like the dialogue was similar when he's trying to explain like why they should be going out, and she's just like not having it.
Like, wait, is this real?
Yeah,
is this happening?
I mean, it was
like I said, they're both on the spectrum, right?
It was, and it gave it that feel. Like, I mean, that's when you ask that question. I mean, that's kind of what brings it to that question is like, was he going for that? Like, was he kind of copying? I know that's not Fincher. That's who's Social Network?
Oh my gosh.
Social Network?
The script, the writer.
Sorkin?
Yeah. So
Aaron Sorkin.
That it bothered me, and it seemed out of place. And just both the dinner scene when he had to establish that, these other guys are getting more attention because football and this and that, and it's like, I don't know, it felt out of place, and it made me kind of not like him because
my favorite scene in the movie,
the dinner scene, the awkward
the brothers are there. It's so funny.
Are those brothers?
I thought they were his brothers. Are they not?
They're brother. They're not his brothers.
It's his cousins.
They're cousins.
Oh, they're cousins.
Yeah, it's his cousins.
It's the friend's son.
I do kind of like shits on him.
Yeah. Oh, it's fucking great.
But yeah, so it was just
Division 3.
But it was a little bit of a caricature.
When he says it's Division 3.
Division 3. I mean, it's not even.
Isn't that exactly what he would say in Social Network? I mean, if he was in that conversation, like he would be saying the exact same stuff.
I own Facebook, motherfuckers.
You would have invented Facebook.
It just felt like like it was just biting from that pretty much the entire time. So I mean that kind of bothered me about it. Yeah,
gotcha.
So I'm gonna body bag. Predictably, I don't like the degree of like sort of abuse, right? It both feels a little too scripted, like Nick was saying, but also it goes just far enough so that it makes it less complicated for me, and I want it more complicated. Like I want a character that feels more to me like hard mentors that I had. Yeah. Some of which, like said basketball coach, I genuinely think is a dick and was sort of arbitrary. So here's what it is, right? For me, I want to focus less on the actual like level of abuse and more about whether or not it's truly arbitrary or it's intentional. Right? Like when people do things to push people, but they're arbitrary about when and how they do it, then it becomes sort of abusive in a way that doesn't even have the benefit of the argument that like there's a purpose, right? That there's like a potential back end, even whether or not you agree that that's worth it. There's not even the potential. Whereas like when you have somebody who's really thinking about it and they're going, this person could be great, and they respond to being pushed hard, and I have to push them hard in a way that like I can justify to myself as a human, but they gotta feel the pressure, right? I wanted more of that. And I don't know what exactly you do, but like the like super personal,
you just pull back. I think you take away 10 lines or eight lines, 8 words.
The hyper specific stuff to his family.
But even let me give you a softer example, right? Like the kid that he kicks out for being,
who wasn't off the
right?
team,
Yeah. Okay. I guess like you need to do that because you want to send the message to everybody else, but at the same time, I'm a little bit like, that kid wasn't, once you kick him out in that way, right? Like, and you sort of abuse him in that way, there's no purpose to that. You've kicked him out. You've shut down his potential. Mm-hmm. So I don't know. To me, like, there were ways in which I thought that it could have seemed craftier.
Yeah, I agree. Or
more questionable as to whether or not he was really just like coming from a place of personal anger. So I didn't like that part of it.
Yep, and I'm just gonna quickly agree with Nate. So that's my body bag, and then you got
mine is the keto diet. I tried it. JK Simmons is obviously a fucking veteran of this shit. He's so vascular in this movie. He's obviously hasn't eaten a fucking carb in like 42 months. I had the most terrible shits, you guys, when I didn't eat any carbs at all. I was just eating meat and bacon and cheese and shit.
Oh, I did that shit.
And dude, oh man, I lost. They were like, "Oh, I lost 15 pounds in 8 days." They're like, "Holy shit, you lost 15 pounds in 8 days." I was like, "Yeah, but that's because I've shit everything out that I possibly could eat." Like JK Simmons is so mad because his asshole is burning and terrible because he's just shitting all day long because he doesn't eat carbs. That's my body.
Hemorrhoids.
I thought that if you ate like a ton of cheese, it'd like back you up.
I'm also lactose intolerant. May have had something to do with it. But I can tell that J.K. Simmons is unhappy because he doesn't eat delicious carbs and roughage. He's only eating meat and cheese.
That's probably the best.
And that's how you get that vascular at 74 years old.
All right, so we are on to moving on to the next category, our cameo pricing. Brad, I'm going to let you really quick. You're the professional here. I want you to describe this category really quick for us.
Yeah, so as you may or may not know, Cameo is a website you can go to where you can have celebrities of all kinds, athletes and such, will record a short message for you for a certain amount of cash in their pocket.
The only common theme between these celebrities is that they're not super big celebrities, right?
That's the thing we kind of found out. I mean... I've used the product a couple times for some friends, and it was very specific reasons for doing it, and they weren't the most popular people in the world. But you know, it can make somebody's day when they hear a celebrity talking directly to them. So Cameo, we like to look at our movies that we're talking about, and we will decide, or we'll check Cameo to see how many of them are actually selling themselves.
And Cameo, if you're listening, we are available for there is ad space.
We are also not big celebrities, so we can be on your app.
Yeah, I'm sure at some point, when we're recording our own Cameo messages, it'll be awesome. But for this movie, gentlemen, who do you think is available?
I'm going to say Riser.
I
say Riser. I bet you could pop Riser for about $99.
Paul Reiser, while horrible in this movie, is a big fucking star, and he is not on camera.
He's not that big.
I'm going to say the friend at dinner.
Zach is correct because Paul Reiser is not on there. And Nick, you were right there because Travis, the D3 baller,
okay,
is available.
The D3 baller.
Jason Blair, Travis, the D3 baller. He is available for the way low price of $20.
$20, you can get him to. What is he? What else is he in? Is he anything else?
You know what? I
spout off his D3 stats.
Is he in the Spectacular now?
Didn't he have a winning touchdown? Wasn't that described in the movie?
Pretty sure he punched Miles Teller in the face.
After that.
Yeah, once Miles Teller got punched in the face by Jason Blair at some point. Travis the D3 baller. That's all we got for cameo.
Well, then I'm gonna take a quick moment here to do our ASMR break.
The ASMR moment is brought to you by Cameo.
Who's it brought? Well,
brought to you by Cheetos today. God. That shit's delicious.
Anybody else's dick's hard right now?
I didn't even know what ASMR was until like a week ago, but man, I'm embracing this.
I would like one of you to tell me what the acronym ASMR stands for.
Audio sensory something or other.
I think it's like audio sensory masturbatory.
I don't think it involves
It's a lot of words for that R right there. It's a soft R.
There's zero chance that anyone listens to that when they're not masturbating.
I guess one of our future categories would be guess the crunchiness. What is Nate eating?
Yeah,
we'll have to.
Are these the puffs or are these the crunchy Cheetos? Obviously, the crunchy are so much better.
Go ahead and message us and tell us either to never do that fucking again, or take your guess.
We want your feedback.
Brad is hoping so hard that we get a lot of emails saying, "Jesus Christ!"
Right, you're gonna get just a bunch of chicks sending like flashing pics because they're like all about.
I got so wet immediately as soon as the crunchy Cheetos went into Nate's mouth.
Eat the Cheetos again, baby.
Puffy, not so much, but crunchy.
All right.
Well, we have outside of our ASMR moment, we have another sponsor. This episode of Bevs is brought to you by Candy Tubs. When you're watching a movie at the movie theaters or at home, are you too lazy to eat your popcorn and candy separately? Well, for all you overachievers out there, Candy Tubs has just the product to make your at-home movie watching experience a little less labor-intensive. Candy Tubs are microwavable popcorn pouches with the candy already in the bag. Just microwave your popcorn to the temperature listed on the bag and pop! Movie-grade popcorn, butter popcorn, with that melty mess you would get in the theater when your box of candy in the warm, when you put your box of candy in the warm popcorn. And it's at the bottom of the tub just like you like it. And you don't have to go through the hassle of eating your popcorn and candy separately. Thank you, Candy Tubs. Candy Tubs come in many flavors: Raisinette, Snickers, Junior Mint, Sour Jacks, Jujubes, Milk Duds, and Red Licorice. And don't forget about Candy Tubs' new product, Slushy Tubs. If you're a fan of a cold cherry or blueberry slushie at the movies but don't want to go through all that reaching into your popcorn bucket, then reaching for your separate cup of slushy thing, then Slushy Tubs is the treat for you. Just microwave your buttered movie-grade popcorn for the appropriate time, pour your favorite slushie into the bag, and boom, enjoy that slushy tub. Slushy and Candy Tubs are sold with a spoon and wet wipes to keep your lazy ass clean. Because let's face it, you're not getting up to wash your hands. You have a movie to watch.
Have any of you ever actually like thrown fucking?
I've never
chocolate
done that.
into a.
I gotta give props to Homer
I'm
Simpson.
Actually, like curious about it.
Closest
Homer Simpson's it on the show. He poured like Milk Duds and they started drowning in the butter of his popcorn.
So they would sink to the bottom, right? Like eventually.
I think Paul Reiser's eating them fucks pretty fast. I think he's dipping in pretty quick, trying to feed the diabetes.
I thought about doing that.
I am curious about it. Like, I'm talking
I kind of want to do it.
I'm
going
to probably
mints.
try it at some point.
I would do it with Junior Mints.
I would do it with Raisin Nuts.
Junior Mints and buttered popcorn?
That's a
Don't judge me.
Sick shit, bro.
Dude.
Are you high? I think Raisin Nuts.
Some sort of pothead? Pot addict?
Smoking that reefer.
Do you smoke the reefer?
All right. Okay. We can cut that one too. That was kind of weak, but
Spectacular.
I loved it personally.
All right, so are we
I'm
still
eating a slushy tub?
Slushy tub. I'd like me a good slushy tub. We rolling? Okay, so moving on to the next category, which is drinking with the director. We're sitting down with. So this category is if you're sitting down with the director, what are you going to talk to him about? And first, before we get into that, we're going to talk about what we are drinking. We're going to go around the table. What frosty beverages are we drinking tonight? Bradley, what are we sipping on tonight?
Yeah, I'm drinking a local brewery, Last Call Brewing. They have Flip Flop Tank Top. It is a Guava Grolsch. It is a 6%er, and it's a great summer beer. It's like maybe my favorite summer beer of all time. Refreshing, tasty, and I could pretty much drink them sitting out in the sun all day, and I've done that in the heat of Phoenix, Arizona before. So
Last Call's in Oakdale, California.
Let's get tropical.
It is. It's one of the 3 breweries in Oakdale, California.
You guys can't see it, but Brad is drinking this beer out of a coffee mug with Lonely Bernie wearing his mittens and his mask.
It keeps it frosty.
Feel the burn.
This is a gift. This was a gift. So,
yeah.
Nate,
just in case you thought Brad might have been a conservative.
I'm mixing a whole increasingly large pours of Bullet in with mostly Diet Pepsi, although accidentally I got a Diet Coke, which is not my preferred beverage, but at this point.
You're headed for a suicide. That's where this is headed. Slice comes next.
I'll probably put Squirt in it.
And just for our listeners, he's not saying he's going to kill himself. He's saying when you push all the buttons on the fountain drink,
for all
that's
you rookies
called
that don't know
the suicide, at least to us older gentlemen from back in the day.
Thank you for that clarification.
Shit got dark there. He's headed for easy.
Our target audience.
One more drink, and
he said increasing amounts of bourbon is what he said. I was worried about
himself like the kid in the movie.
Our target audience definitely knows what a suicide is.
I hope so.
42-year-old middle-class white males. Pretty sure they know what
my bourbon supply is suffering. I need to reload so that I'm not drinking this.
Zach, what are you drinking?
So we are at Nate's lovely compound here, and he's got 2 different choices on tap. You guys, that is the level of comfort that we're.
I don't even
right
drink
now.
beer, dude.
He doesn't drink. This is not
but
a
his
joke.
Friends do.
Nate is such a good guy. He does not drink beer. He drinks diet disgusting shit
with increasing amounts of bourbon.
With bourbon in it. And it makes him want to commit suicide.
With real Pepsi and Diet Pepsi.
But to make himself feel better, he buys 2 different kegs of beer and hooks them up in his house for his friends when they come over to do terrible podcasts. What a good fucking guy. That's what I'm drinking.
Which one do you do? You got the hazy?
Peace, Love, Haze, I think.
Peace,
From the local brewmeister.
Dust Bowl Brewing in Turlock, California.
Recently expanded to, they're going to be expanding to Elk Grove.
That's where the new place is.
Their new location.
They've got one over in Monterey, too.
Big sponsor of ours.
Dust Bowl, yeah. Dust Bowl, we're available for... we have just a little bit of ad time left, so if you want to get in on this.
I mean, Drinking with the Director, sponsored by Dust Bowl. It sounds like it sounds.
When I say sponsor, I mean we pay full price for their beer, and they let us do that.
And we enjoy drinking it. And I'm drinking the other half of Keg's beautiful selection of brewskis down there, the Amber Taco Truck Amber Lager from Dust Bowl Brewing as well. It's delicious and flavorful. Thank you, Nate.
Cheers.
All right, so we are sitting down, drinking our beers and cocktails with Damien Chazelle, talking about Whiplash. We got questions, comments. We might have quotes that we enjoy. Just all-encompassing kind of category. So,
Nick, you actually would maybe be. I mean, obviously, Damien could answer this question, but this came from a short, and so was the short as ambiguous as the movie was with the ending, and what? I mean, obviously they expanded. I think adding obviously the girlfriend and stuff like that was probably stuff they did for the feature length.
So I could speak for Damien here. Yeah, I would step in. I'd interrupt him, and I'd say, Damien, I got this. So the short was focused on the scene where he throws the chair at the end of the scene. So that whole scene is what the short. It's I think 70 minutes of that.
Okay, and so they don't have any of the
none of the extra stuff. So it's all that.
I guess that's where my question would go. Then it would be like, so did you just write it out yourself? Did you? How did you think the story could go? Did you have other options the way you wanted the story to go, and things like that? Because that's.
I mean, I think the script went at the very last scene. It was like 17 minutes solo, and then that's all it said. And then triumphant solo is probably what it said, and then I think that's probably the end of the script.
Yeah, and I guess after doing, there's no solo in the short. There's no solo at the end.
No, so it's when he comes into the room right at the 9 o'clock mark, and everyone's comes to attention, and then they start rehearsal, and then he says we got a squeaker. They rehearse, and then he starts with the not quite my tempo thing, and then throws the chair, and then it ends.
I love that shit. One of the things I love, and I would compliment is, I don't know how much of this is JK Simmons, how much this is the writing, but not quite my tempo. Like he's real, like calm and kind of affable until he loses his fucking mind.
So if you watch, I've watched it more than a couple of times. If you watch the drummer the first chair drummer who's sitting there watching, if you just watch his reactions,
so excited.
It's kind of funny because he's trying to so bar of 18, and you're watching him, and then there's a certain point where you're like, he knows at this point that he's about ready to fuck with him now, because he can't keep agreeing and make it seem like he's like, oh yeah, and sometimes he looks confused, like it's like, oh, Miles hit it there, like he actually did it right, but Simmons just keeps stopping. If you watch him, it's these subtle things. It's actually kind of a fun reaction.
For me, that's the part that gets what I was saying earlier, right? Like that's the part that leans into the strategy, right? He doesn't give a shit whether Neiman's getting it right. That's not the point, right? The point is to make Neiman question whether or not he's getting it right and go back and work himself to death to try to make sure that he's never, has to question it. Yeah. And for me, I think I get that. There's in some of what I do, in my non-pod life, there are roles I play where I'm not abusive in that way, but I very much guard myself from connecting with people that I'm trying to mentor. Guard myself from connecting with people that I'm trying to mentor in a way that would allow them to feel too much comfort for this reason, right? Because I don't intend to push them. I'm not that guy, right? I'm not trying to push anybody to be the greatest thing of all time and lack that perspective. But in certain mentorship roles, your role is to try to make somebody motivated, sometimes with some discomfort, right?
But do you think shame is the way to?
I don't know. I 100% don't think shame, or most of the time shame isn't, unless somebody really does it. But I do think having them question whether they've done enough, right, and doing that in ways that doesn't involve you have to be abusive is sometimes incredibly effective tool. The question I really want to ask him is is your point that in fact the ends do justify the means here, right? Is that the point of the movie?
Yeah, it's kind of the point of the movie.
Certainly there's an argument to be made that very much, that at least we have to entertain that possibility.
It's just like we were talking about with The Last Dance. You can't argue against the way that Jordan does stuff, because he ends up being the greatest of all time. He has the results. So you can't say that, oh, he didn't do that right. You know what I mean?
But I think the counter argument, right, is this is the perspective issue. Do we really fucking care whether or not we had a Michael Jordan? Right? People trump that up, and people want to hold on to that and be in some way, people want to concoct arguments, if you're being a real cynic, about why that somehow makes life better and enough to justify being a piece of shit. But at some point, right, there are things and there aren't things, right? This is a total value judgment, but a lot of things that people do that are quote unquote truly great in the grand scheme of things probably, are pretty inconsequential for things that are down to the bone, real important issues, right? No kids eating because Michael Jordan was great.
But at the end of the day, what special things that you're talking about, whether it's the Sistine Chapel to the winning 6 championships to these things, don't require giving your life, giving your credibility.
And to me, that's the big issue, right? It's where do you even draw the line? Right? There are things that are essential,
Going back to the very end of the movie, though, when he goes over to him and says, "I know it was you," is that a moment of inspiration? Is that I know this is going to be, this last little statement I make to him is going to push him to be no.
I think he was ready. He was fuck you. He was fuck you.
And that's where the movie loses me. The movie loses me when he openly tells the kid, "I'm not a retard. I know." I shouldn't say that word. When he openly tells the kid, "I'm not stupid. I know it was you."
That's where he draws the line.
And what I'm saying is, I draw the line at where he, in front of a crowd, gets embarrassed and then is all of a sudden fucking into it, like, oh shit, he's got the tempo. And I'm like, no, this dude would have fucking had a meltdown. I mean,
I'm with you, Zach.
You know what I'm saying?
100% on that.
Well, he did say, I'm going to gouge out your fucking eyes. Before he got into the tempo, he walked up and he did tell him, like,
yeah, he's pissed.
He was pissed.
And I do identify a little with the JK Simmons, like long, yeah, like the big charge. Like there are times when that's part of what I like, is he's like, it's not quite right. He's like super calm, and he's just like, I'll fucking fuck you like a pig. I've had those moments, not quite so. Have you, Nate? Flair. There have been a couple times where I've lost.
Put you down, bro.
Put you in the ground.
I believe it was I'll put you in the ground. Yeah, but I mean, there are things I like about the J.K. Simmons character. I mean, that for me, part of that, that's what makes the J.K. Simmons performance great. Like separating the writing is that, like, you do really feel that, like, complication of the calm. Like he really does. You wonder whether or not he's like, he knows he's going to blow his lid, or whether he's really trying to keep it together. Right? You don't know.
Yeah, and if you're talking to the director, it's like, how much leash did you give Simmons? Like, I feel like I'm just curious. Like the insults, I feel like are Simmons. I feel like they're Simmons. I feel like Simmons.
According to Simmons, right? According to Simmons, there's only one line in the whole movie that he improvised, which was, "You like entitled little prick" or something. Something pretty kind of a throwaway.
All right.
So according to him, it was not. It was the writing, right? And
which maybe makes sense why it sounds and it comes off that way.
It's a little scripted.
And there was a line that he didn't like that Damien Chazelle wanted to keep in the movie, and so they actually cut away.
I fuck you like a pig.
Yeah, and so it doesn't actually show him saying it, because he said it once kind of like off, and he's like, I don't like that line. And so he didn't react. So they actually had to cut away, have that line play, and then...
they change it in the final script to I will gut you like a pig, and he didn't like that as well. The director didn't like that also.
Which I don't mind the gut.
Yeah, I'll fuck or gut a pig. It doesn't matter to me. I mean...
But I kind of like the bestiality element of, like, you fuck a pig.
Well, at that point, he's jumped in. He's jumped in.
You eat shit for breakfast.
Yeah. Talk about the absentee mother and all the gay slurs. You got to add in some bestiality at the end. I mean,
he's jumping in dick first for sure. What else? Anything else like talking with him? But any like quotes? I mean, we don't have to get into every single one. There's some other.
I would just ask him. I would be like, was it a conscious decision to put the most boring fucking part of the drum solo, where there's like a 60-second break where the guy's playing one quarter note every 3 seconds, and the audience is fucking enraptured?
I think though that goes to like the whole Buddy Rich thing. Like I've watched a bunch of his solos, and it's just that. I mean, he gets to the point where he's just like barely just tapping the very edge of the thing, and just the control. I think that's what's about, showing stick control.
Dude, I dug that.
And then just like this tension.
I mean, I get that, but I mean, I can play a fucking quarter note. You know what I mean? Like,
the solo needed that, dude. It needed the break, and then you knew it was coming back.
You should have subbed Zach.
He could have
played the.
He could have subbed me in. I could have
just like tap me, bro. Tap me, bro.
I could have played like 42 seconds of the solo.
I did love the quote, and I think they had part of it in the trailer, that, oh my dear God, are you one of those single tear people? Do I look like a double fucking rainbow to you?
That's a great, and just such a great reference to the like fucking internet, the video on the internet. It's a nice way to like.
I think it's a RIP on that poor guy. I think the double rainbow dude passed away.
Oh, did he?
Yep.
Is he on Cameo?
Not now that he's dead.
This is unfortunate for our sponsors.
Okay, so
I'll have to check. Maybe he was at some point.
Okay, awesome stuff. On to the next category, on to streaming recommendations. Anything out there that you do not have to pay for, Brad, to watch and stream? We want to hear what everyone has, some things that are somewhat connected or related in some way to Whiplash. So
I got it's on Stars, so if you have a Stars subscription, you're gonna get to watch that. I don't know if that counts.
We're all paying for
who
that
has
shit.
Stars?
Mine is also on Stars, so I can't even talk shit on Brad.
That means you're paying $3.99 for it.
See, I'm getting by this time. But mine is actually Officer and a Gentleman. It's a very random pick, but you have a character going through a very tough situation, trying to prove themselves, and of course you got Lou Gossett Jr. Breathing down his neck the entire time, trying to rip him apart, trying to get him to Richard Gere to leave the service, to drop out, and his aggressive ends up, they actually fight. I mean, they legitimately fight, and but he proves himself to just not only himself, but he also proved himself to Lou Gossett Jr. So it's a cheesy kind of 80s movie, but at the same time, it had some of the same feeling. After watching that
was Michael Douglas you were referring
to? Yeah, Richard Douglas.
You had me at Michael Gere.
Michael Gere.
Michael Gere. That's got a good ring.
Oh, yeah. So, yeah,
right.
Officer and a Gentleman, that's my choice.
I like it. That's saucy. Zach?
My streaming recommendation is also on Stars. So if you're one of the 6 people out there that subscribes to Stars, not a sponsor.
Spending so much money to watch your movies.
I got to tell you guys, JK Simmons stars in a series called Counterpoint. There's been 2 seasons. It's spectacular. And, no spoilers, but JK Simmons plays 2 characters, both of which are JK Simmons. And when he comes...
Sorry, he plays characters that are actually named JK Simmons?
So his name's like fucking something. His name's something in the show, but he plays the same guy... And then there's an alternate universe version of himself.
Got it. So
and one of them's a fucking badass, and one of them is, super not a badass. But without any costume change or character change in any way, the minute that you see the camera on him or that he comes on screen, you can tell which guy it is.
That's cool.
And it's really fucking cool, and he's really good. The story sort of loses some traction at some point, but it's definitely worth checking out the first season if anything. So
is he as vascular as he is in Whiplash?
If you guys are like me and your sister subscribes to Stars and you steal her password and you can watch the series.
Was he still on the keto diet at that point?
No, definitely not. But he's I mean, he's a good looking bald white man. I mean,
he has a good bald head.
Yeah, as a bald white man, I aspire to have a JK Simmons like physique at some point. I assume he's got a big dick. I mean, super fucking veiny big dick, just keto fucking red keto asshole.
Good flow.
Maybe you ought to get back on the keto, dude. It sounds like that's where that's kind of where your heart's at.
I mean, it's really the movie really brought that up to me. I mean, it's really been speaking to me lately. I've been thinking about eating nothing but bacon and cheddar cheese for the next 6 weeks and just shitting my brains out. What you got, Nick?
Okay, so I got Black Swan, Amazon Prime Video. Darren Aronofsky directed.
Heavy.
Dark psychological thriller. If you haven't seen it, Natalie Portman, or it stars Natalie Portman, Mila Kunis, Vincent Cassel. If you know Vincent Cassel, he's one of the thieves in the Ocean's movies, French actor, right?
One of the 11.
No,
he's not. He's on the outside. He's like
in 12.
Jackal.
He's in 12. Yeah, he's the bad guy in 12. Then he's like
one of the 12.
Part of 13.
Yeah, he's like the 16th. Yeah,
12 and a half.
But. So anyways, good, dark, psychological drama, Black Swan. I've thrown this one out before, but Nightcrawler, which is also on Netflix. Jake Gyllenhaal.
I love Natalie Portman so much.
Have you seen Black Swan?
This is Zach's ASMR part.
Yeah.
That's my ASMR about Natalie Portman and Mila Kunis. Natalie. This was a very important period of Mila Kunis' life.
Mila Kunis is good in it.
She's good. Very beautiful.
She's very good in it. Those are my 2 quick spot on Nightcrawler, but I've talked about it before. So Nate, what do you got?
So for my free recommendation, I'm going to go much brighter than all of you fucking
of course
downers. I'm going to go, already mentioned The Spectacular Now with Miles Teller, which is really good. And it's got Shailene Woodley, who is now betrothed to one Shailene Rogers. Shailene Rogers.
Wait, they're married officially now?
No. But it's going to happen. They were meant to be
Isn't
together.
betrothed mean promised to be married?
It's betrothed.
He gave her a promise ring.
Betrothed ring.
Are we on the View right now?
There's a promise ring, I think.
So he gave her a promise ring.
If you
gave her a promise ring.
If you have some sort of subscription to something called Fubo, which I am not familiar with.
That's Puff Daddy's clothing line.
That's right. Or Showtime through Amazon, or Hoopla, or Canopy, or DirecTV. You may stream for free The Spectacular Now, or you can rent it.
All 6 of you.
Or if you want something that Brad provoked something in me, and it reminded me of one that I really liked. That's kind of a weird one to like, but I just rewatched it, and you cannot get it for free. But I have it on DVD, so fuck all of you.
That's my boy right there.
G.I. Jane. So this is another interesting one in exactly this way. And in some of the articles they point out, right? Like, well, we're talking about ends justifying the means, right? If the Navy SEALs might be a pretty good place to look, right? You gotta, for both their individual long-term well-being and for the sort of whatever thing they're trying to protect, being a pretty big dick to a Navy SEAL to prepare them for being whatever they're going to do might be a good place to look for ends justifying the means. And there's a really great Viggo Mortensen, Demi Moore dynamic in that movie that sort of has the same feel to it.
Viggo's so fucking dreamy.
Plus, and Demi Moore is phenomenally good in this movie. Looks great, beats the fuck out of Viggo Mortensen at some point, not to spoil it.
She actually told JK Simmons about the keto diet.
I was like, JK.
It was vascular before it was cool.
Just facts.
Let me tell you about this fucking aerodynamic haircut I got going.
If you want to rent that, you're going to need to save up $3.99 on basically any streaming platform.
All right.
That's a damn good list. All right. Moving on to our reshelf it / alternate endings category. Reshelf it. So it's connecting to our Bev's Video Kingdom name. We all grew up in the generation of the movie store and walking around movie stores, you have your categories. The store was broken up into categories. You got horror here, you got comedy here, you got action here, adventure.
So let me stop you there, Nick. Where's this movie now? Where's Whiplash? If Whiplash came out, you think so?
You think so? That's
drama.
Jesus Christ.
Or drama.
That'd be in the drama section.
Okay, yeah.
But
Drama's
I like the
easy.
thriller call. I mean, that's a fun
It's one or the other. It's probably easy drama, and then if they want
it's that's one of the things that's great about it. Is almost there are times when it has the perspective, the feel of it is like a thriller without the thriller.
And if you watch, like you said, the fucking trailer
is a thriller.
Automatic. Yeah,
for sure.
So we're calling this category. We're calling it reshelf it, where we just draw up a whole new storyline to the movie. We get creative with it. It can be either a complete rewrite or just a little section of it, the ending, and which also ends up playing into the alternate endings.
Whatever. Yeah, or change the genre even.
Right, exactly. Sorry, Brad, that's perfect. Thanks. So you're reshelving it in that movie store. So if it's a thriller, maybe you're reshelving it and you're turning it into a comedy or a romance. So we usually have some fun and get into some fun talks here and storytelling. So who wants to start it off? Who's got a good one?
I got an alternate ending.
Okay.
And this is for Zach. I think Zach's going to appreciate this movie much more. And so we have the scene where Andrew, post crash and all that stuff, he shows up at the jazz club, and you got Fletcher up there on the piano. So we see Andrew going to the club, and next thing you know, somebody shoots Fletcher. Just boom, he's dead. Drops him right in the middle of his performance.
Guy they thought committed suicide.
So the final scene cuts to a courtroom, and they're about to announce the verdict of if he's guilty or innocent. And as it zooms down, you think it's going to be Andrew because we saw him go in the club, but it's actually Andrew's dad, Paul Reiser.
Oh shit!
Came in and was like,
"Mad about you, dog."
He was like, "You don't fuck with my son like that." And he had his failed career.
Psychotic at times.
He had his failed career, and he had a lot of emotional issues, I think, going on. So he went off the deep end. And
he said at some point, "I'm not going to let somebody do that to my son."
Yeah. So he comes in blasting.
I love it.
Oh, that's good.
That is a good ending.
So yeah. So I think Zach, you're enjoying that a little bit more, huh?
I like that a lot.
It's turning almost like a courtroom drama too.
I actually had the turning point at the same time as Brad. So my movie makes a turn at the crash. And you know how you hear about these people?
No pun intended.
They're like, "Oh, I fell on my head, and all of a sudden I could play the piano." So my thought was that he fucking gets in that wreck and all of a sudden is just completely unable to play the drums. And he kind of
I thought you were talking about like a rookie of the year situation. Like he got better, not like he obviously.
No,
I
think maybe he loses it. He loses it completely and just completely loses his identity. At some point, the girl like super emasculates him, like freaking just like tells him some crazy shit about how he's a small dick and can't play the drums anymore. And then you know, the movie ends on like a super kind of like Twilight Zone, like zoom out of him like homeless, and like it kind of comes out on him, and you just like see like, oh, that's just another homeless guy.
He's kind of playing like the drums, or he's like playing like
he's trying to
the
teach
trash
he's trying to learn it
playing
again.
like the 5
You
gallon.
know what I mean? He's like, I know how to do this, but
I actually had something similar.
Yeah, I like that shit.
So I want to go in the direction of sort of like we'll call it a Fight Club rewrite. So I want to sort of all of a sudden at the end, right? Like Fletcher's he's not a made up person, but all the experiences that were abusive were completely in Neiman's head.
Gosh dang it.
I love this so much.
So Neiman he ends up exactly where he's at. He's great, and like all the scenes with him playing are exactly correct.
But he never uses the slurs or says anything about his mom.
No, he's a totally nice guy, and
I love that.
So all that stuff is in like he has this conversation with like all you all of a sudden like somehow drop in on like an overhear conversation that he has with like some fellow student, and you realize like he super gets agitated because the student didn't have that experience, but was in the one of the other drummers, and then all of a sudden you're like, wait a minute, did that really happen? And then like you get some little Easter egg that tells you, but like this was his fiction, this was his like self motivation from a place of mental health that caused him to drive him. So he becomes great, but he's going completely crazy because like he has this fictional person.
To connect it to another art film, The Water Boy, when he's imagining that everybody's talking bad about water. And then that makes him such a better linebacker.
Say something about water.
He keeps imagining all the bad things they're saying, and you know what? Drives him crazy. And he's a great
That's
linebacker.
another great connection. I didn't see that, but boy, that's good.
That's fucking amazing.
I mean, are you good? Because I'm down with like cutting there. That's a great one. That's good shit.
Yeah, I mean, fucking you want to end on my brilliance?
Yeah, I mean, Brad's finished it off, but yes, yeah, the Waterboy comment rounded it off beautifully.
Well, so the next category, right? How many times are we going to watch it?
Yeah, so we're on. Well, small town boys. No. Anything there? We're gonna move.
I think we don't do small town.
Okay.
Boys.
Yeah. How many more times you guys gonna watch Whiplash, Zach?
So, just to convey my experience watching this movie, like I told you, my wife literally walked out on the very last scene. Several times throughout was like, is he gonna, what's gonna happen? Is he gonna play the drums? And I was like, yeah, he's gonna play the fucking drums. This is the movie. She goes, what band does he become the drummer of? And I said, this is a fucking made up character. What are you talking about?
Should have been like, Train.
He's the drummer for Matchbox 20. He meets
Justin Bieber's touring.
Well, that's what at some point JK Simmons does say. He's like, oh, if you're playing like this, you're gonna end up in a rock band. I was like, oh, why the diss on rock bands?
That would be terrible. What, he might make some money? I don't understand. Like, how much money does the professional drummer for this show that they're at make? I just feel like there's a climax, and music is so subjective. Like drum solo, jazz drumming is so subjective. Like, was it awesome? I don't know. I mean, I was literally, my wife the whole time was like, when he kept being like, my tempo, blah blah blah. She kept being like, I can't tell the difference. Like he sounds the same, and I'm like, yeah, I think that's the point. And I wasn't even like saying that she didn't know what she was talking about, but like.
But there's a broader point that she's making that I can't believe it took me this long to get to, which is that like the entire movie depends on the snooty horse shit of fucking New York music scene, right?
Exactly.
And like
not only music scene, but jazz scene.
I fucking hate jazz music. I'll just throw that out there right now. Like, and I might be a total like fucking ape for that, but I hate that shit.
Yeah.
And so like that was part of the surprise for me. But I 100% and until recently I would say that I was very down on New York, and I'm a little down. I'm still down on a lot of that culture, but like some of this ties into what we were talking about, which is just like, I don't give a fuck about any of this stuff.
Agreed.
Right? Like, and nobody gives a fuck. We were talking about like, you know, how, would this kid that committed suicide, you know, show up in the papers? Yeah. In some fucking like section of the New York Times that no one else in the world reads.
Whatever Midwestern town he came from, will have an article about him.
Well, but I mean, like New York might care, but like, and New York thinks that means the world should care. But like, this is one of those things where you're just like, man, could this be any actually less relevant to most important shit? You know, like, but they think it's so like the disconnect between what the people involved think is the consequence and what 99.9999% of the world are aware of couldn't be bigger.
Like
right?
the kid's own family gives way more of a shit about fucking.
They're like fucking D3
the guy on Cameo.
How many yards?
Superstar.
How many yards in that D3 game did you get? Bro?
Exactly.
Yeah, I'm with you.
The trailer brought up a point for me that I wanted to watch this. Like both my kids are playing music now, and my wife, I thought she would dig the movie. I think she must have seen the trailer because she's like, she doesn't like thrillers. She doesn't like and I think there's like an intensity that they portray in the thriller that's why she doesn't want to watch it. She's like, that's just, I don't want to see that. It's just going to be scary or just too intense for me.
You should definitely watch Frailty with her.
I'm sure she'll be down for that one. Yeah.
All right.
I'll call her.
So are we
like, hey, Matthew McConaughey?
Hey, are we going to draft so I can whip up on your asses, or are we just going to?
I think it's time.
I mean, we can't kill any more time. I mean, it's going to happen at some point. So, yeah, that's...
Do we have another sponsor?
We do.
I believe we do.
Hey, everybody out there in podcast land, this podcast is brought to you by Miller's Outpost. Do you find yourself with tons of extra stuff that you can't fit inside normal pockets? Phones, chapsticks, wallet, keys? Where do you put all this stuff? Want to wear shorts but don't want to have more than 2 inches of exposed calf between your shorts and your socks? We here at Miller's Outpost Anchor Blue have the answer. Our new 32-inch inseam cargo shorts are the answer to your 1999 prayers. These shorts are so long, baggy, and ridiculous that you could literally carry anything. Books, laptops, squirt guns, drumsticks, heroin, butt plugs. These things have room for all of your essentials. Come on down to Miller's Outpost Anchor Blue, and you can make sure your knees never see the sun again.
Miller's Outpost.
You guys remember Miller's Outpost and Anchor Blue?
Oh, Miller's Outpost for sure.
I had the dopest shorts that were like, they went down to my ankles. And I was like,
Miller's Outpost,
I'm just wearing shorts right now, but they weren't. They were pants. They were short pants.
Wear the fuck out of some Miller's Outpost.
All right, we are now moving on to our draft for most memorable movie teacher. I'm going to kick it to Brad to get this thing going.
Sorry, let's clarify since Zach has asked like 18 times. So this has to be a classroom.
So it has to be a teacher that doesn't teach in a classroom and from a TV show, correct? Is that how it works, Nick?
You're not going to bait. No, you're incorrect.
Classroom
100%.
teacher from a film. And so someone, for example, like Yoda, who other than the classroom of Dagobah system is not qualified. Is that correct?
I mean, he was at the Jedi Academy.
Dude, don't even pull that shit
we
on me.
kind of,
Okay.
it's not mentors. Right. It's more like classroom teachers.
Okay.
Well, see, that's the kind of shit that I don't know. And that sounds like on the line, but somebody like Splinter, no.
I'll drop a fucking protest on this shit in a hot second if somebody tries.
Well, once we finish like the 17 protests against your previous picks, then maybe
he
we'll
has
get to
17 protests pending currently.
All right, our random draft order for this this.
Sorry.
The random draft order for this this film is
bullshit.
Going to be
sorry.
Nate is first pick, Zach in second, myself I am third, and Nick will be fourth. So he will get the wraparound after the first round.
Nick has the best position.
4 rounds of drafting excitement. Look at your picks, see if they get chosen.
Okay, so you're all going to... This is the correct pick, but it may not be the popular pick. The number one clear choice for me here is Jaime Escalante, who is played by Edward James Olmos in the 1988 movie Stand and Deliver, which I believe is based on a true story. So for me, that's the number one. It's like super solid. It was Dangerous Minds before Dangerous Minds knew what Dangerous Minds meant. He was just good.
Fun fact about that movie is my mom was a math teacher, and we watched Stand and Deliver quite a bit.
I mean, one of the best movie lines ever when they're trying to take his test scores away from him, and the dude's like, "Hey man, this isn't between you and me." He's like, "Maybe so, but if I see you on the street, I'm gonna kick the shit out of you." Love that line.
Is that like the best ever? Lou Diamond Phillips?
No, that's
that's Escalante.
Yeah,
I don't remember. It's obviously been a long time.
G and like the testing officials.
He's a bad MFer.
All right, decent pick. Good pick.
Yeah, that's right.
It's definitely not 101, but it's a great teacher.
All right, Big Z. What you got?
I'm second pick. When did we announce this?
I mean, we talked about it a few times so far, but that's okay.
Christ, put me on the spot here. My number one with the number 2 pick in the draft, Team Zach is going to go with Robin Williams from Dead Poets Society.
It's a solid pick.
Oh, Captain, my Captain.
The dad from that 70s show in that movie. Great. He's got some strong Whiplash vibes. Doing what's best for the children by being an absolute dick. But it's a good thing they had a role model like Robin Williams to kind of life imitate art and just kind of be a great role model for those kids.
That's touching.
That is touching.
Deep shit right there.
I mean, I feel like that movie's memorable, but I don't think any of you have shown it to like anybody recently. Be like, hey, let's watch Dead Poets.
I'm with you on that. Yeah,
Definitely not.
I don't know.
But you're pigeonholing me with this category.
You got to choose somebody.
Telling them movies.
All right. What do you got?
Okay, I get a great pick here, and I think there's going to be plenty of folks to agree that in the early 80s classic, Fast Times at Ridgemont High, you have a teacher who has to deal with just one of the best stoner characters, kind of the basis for pretty much all stoner characters in movies that came after him. Spicoli comes into class. He's a mess. He orders pizza in class. But Mr. Hand, as much as he kind of despises Spicoli, he still ends up giving him a really good lesson and kind of teaches him a little bit about life. And I think he ends up passing the dude in the end. So, you know, Mr. Hand is a classic, very hard-nosed teacher. But he does have some heart, and he does care about his students. And so I'm
also like a great name. If we were going with like movie teacher names, Mr. Hand's got to be the number one. Like I sometimes I think like, how did people come up with the names of these characters? Like who was like, okay, we're gonna go Mr. Hand. Have you ever heard of someone named Hand?
Fun fact: I'm 38 years old, and I have never seen Fast Times at Ridgemont High.
Or Hoosiers.
This is what I'm talking about, dude. There's some shit here that like you people should be horrified by.
Nate called it today a movie blind spot. I like that. I've never heard that.
It was a different conversation. I'll tell you about later.
Nick, you get the wraparound here. You got 2 picks leading us into the second round.
The reach around.
2 in a row.
Okay, so since all the great picks are taken, because everyone you guys opened up with it, creating the best pick.
Getting fourth in your own draft category has got to suck. Being the 4th pick is not.
I was prepared though.
His one of one's still on the board.
I've been in enough drafts with you guys, but needless to say, I'm picking. This is the number 1 pick, the best pick so far, and for the entire draft, I'm opening up with Indiana Jones.
Wow.
Wow. And beloved by all ladies and crushed on by every female student that he had.
I will say that the scene where she like
blinks and has like
exactly what I was about to bring up.
Yeah.
Hypothetically speaking, if any of you guys were teachers and that happened to you, what's the move there?
Dude, to not get fired.
You got to shut it down because it's
jump out
2021.
Like,
that's the correct answer, guys.
Jump out like Indy did to go hunt some treasures.
You guys were all
he had
heroes.
to work off that energy. He had some pent up energy he had to work off.
Well, I'm going to save my criticism of that pick because I'm sure that our guest judge is going to tee off on it. So
I will say his professorial scenes were filmed at the University of the Pacific. My alma mater.
I did not know that.
Matter.
My alma mater.
Hey, y'all, I'm educated. I'm telling you.
It doesn't matter, Brad. All right, what do you got for number 5? Nikki?
What's leading up to the second round?
Alma matter of fact, I do.
The mentor to one, Will Hunting, Robin Williams as Sean McGuire.
Fucking copy me, bro.
In Good Will Hunting.
He's not a teacher. He's a shrink.
I can't hold my
first of
tongue
all.
anymore. So both these picks, though, the teaching is incidental. The fact that they're teachers are incidental to the greatness of the character. Is it then?
Indiana
That
Jones.
doesn't matter. That's semantics, bro.
Indiana Jones.
You're not.
Does Indiana Jones have any scene where he's teaching a class?
Yes.
Except the scene in the third movie, Raiders or Crusade or whatever. No,
he teaches in Raiders.
In Raiders,
that's where the
teaches
girl.
Raiders.
That's where the
Blink
girl
is
blinks.
Raiders.
Is the Raiders.
No, that's in Crusade.
100%. It's
Raiders.
Either Raiders or Temple of Doom.
Because I think the Raiders scenes is the
not
ones
Temple of
filmed
Doom.
at Pacific. I think after that, I don't think they were filmed there. But.
It's Raiders then for sure.
And Raiders, and then Last Crusade is in his classroom. I don't think he's in the classroom in Temple of Doom.
No.
I don't think they show him in Temple of Doom.
No.
Well, you know what's funny as I think about that now is how old do you think he was and like was supposed to be in that Raiders scene? Like what in his like 30s?
Mid
probably?
30s.
And I remember as a kid seeing that and like seeing that girl, and I was like,
Bro,
she's like into that dude. He's fucking old, dude.
Yeah.
He's shit. He's like 10 years younger than I am
Fucking
right now.
Han Solo looking motherfucker.
I will say, Sean McGuire, though, his limited teaching scene
Is
in
a
the
great
movie
scene.
is
I
a
will
great
give you
scene,
that.
and he comes off as a badass
He
teacher.
comes out as a great teacher. I admit that. He is. And far be it from me to criticize anybody that picks anything from Good Will Hunting because it's a great movie.
It could have been the number 2 pick. The third pick, I almost went with it. And I was like, going back to back Robin.
You're talking about Robin Williams? Well, first of all, it's his next category. Robin Williams is not a teacher in the movie. I'm pretty positive that he's a shrink or some sort of psychiatrist.
No, he's a professor.
He's
not.
He's like an adjunct at a community college. You first meet him.
Yeah.
Strike 2.
He was finishing up teaching a class.
Do you even watch movies?
Just TV shows.
Not sober. All right.
All right, Zach. Is it? Are we back to
me?
Zach? Yeah.
Are we going to pick actual teachers?
It's back to me.
Oh, okay. How is it back to you?
How's it back to you, dude?
I'm the third pick.
Oh, yeah. Because you
He
had
was the
first
third
and
pick.
second.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Reach around, bro.
Oh, man. There's
I'm going to rewatch Good Will Hunting when we get home because I'm upset about this right now.
All right. I got to go with one. And this, it's a movie that people of all ages can enjoy. And it's a classic. I mean, I watched it once, loved it, watched a couple times when it first came out, and then hadn't watched it in a long time, watched it recently with my kids. And Dewey Finn from School of Rock is the teacher I'm going with. He is an amazing teacher. He's not even supposed to be a teacher. He kind of fakes it till he makes it, but ends up becoming the legendary music teacher that creates a full-on kick-ass rock band with a bunch of kids and involves all of them, even the kids that can't play instruments. They're groupies. Love it. Thank you for the SMR.
That wasn't me pissing. It was pouring a giant.
Nice flow, Nate.
Yeah, the whiskey flow in the background is
that thick flow.
Going to add to my...
Some Diet Pepsi on top of that shit.
I'm not sure. All right. That's my pick. I'm happy with it. You guys all are
Nice
sad
pick.
that you
Nice
did
pick,
get that pick.
There's a thick flow.
Beautiful pick. It's hard to ignore that flow.
Okay, so Brad, you leave Zach and then me, and I get a rap. I'm gonna kill it with this rap.
With my second pick, I'm gonna go with a beloved Bev's Video Kingdom rental, Arnold Schwarzenegger.
Damn it, dude!
As detective and Mr. Kimball, John Kimball, in Kindergarten Cop.
So I say anytime there's an opportunity, I say instead of I say like it's not a tumor, except anything I can substitute for tumor, I do. Like for some reason, every time I change my kid's diaper, I say it's not a diaper.
You sound like an old Jewish grandma.
It got a little Irish.
Yeah, it got super weird.
Not
for
a
a second.
diaper.
Earlier it was I was Elvis Sling Blade.
Sling Blade is one of the other good ones.
All right.
No, the line is who is your daddy and what does he do?
Yeah.
I like that line.
Boys have penis, girls have vaginas.
That movie actually
that's the line
introduced
of the
me
movie.
into the genitalia.
That was also an Arnold movie for me, which was Twins.
Oh, dude, Twins is a great one. Those are classics.
The lovely and talented late Mrs. John Travolta.
All right, I don't. That's this. You've done tough things to me. Okay, so I'm gonna go. The first one here is gonna have to be a little on the nose. We're talking about Whiplash tonight. JK Simmons wins the Academy Award for supporting actor, and he is just unreal in it. It is not the best movie teacher. It is the most memorable. I am, with my second pick, taking Fletcher from Whiplash.
Wearing the t-shirt of the band you're going to go see, huh? That's cool. A little softball.
Okay, you just pissed.
Congratulations.
The second one, we're going to get our first female on the board, and I'm debating hard between three choices here. And I'm going to go with one that is a little bit... Damn, I don't know. I'm going to go on the one that is not the one you think. Okay, I'm going to go with Professor McGonagall from the Harry Potter series. I know, yeah. She's so great front to back, has so many great scenes, so many great lines. That's my number. It's my number 2 and my number 3.
What was Nate's pick?
Professor McGonagall and Fletcher from Whiplash.
I like McGonagall.
We'll have to have that conversation a little bit later, but yeah, let's move on.
Conversations to be had after this draft.
Yeah, Zach, what's your pick?
Is it my pick again?
That's the way it works.
Already.
I'm going to go with the beautiful and talented Tom Berenger from The Substitute. 1996 classic. He goes back to teaching as a substitute to find the guys that messed with his wife.
Classic 80s, or is it early 90s?
Oh, it's 90s.
But
it's very 80s.
This is when Tom Berenger was trying to figure out if he's like going to be a big superstar or not. And I think after this movie, it was kind of like, yeah.
He figured out he wasn't.
He's not the leading man. He's going to be a great co-star, but the leading man, maybe not. All right. So that leads me to my pick. And my pick is great because it is probably the most memorable teacher in the entire movie kingdom. And because just about everybody knows the infamous lines of Bueller. And it's so great because not only did this person go on to actually have a very interesting career and actually had a very interesting career previous to being in that movie, but he doesn't actually have a name in the movie. He's just economics teacher. So I'm taking the economics teacher, Ben Stein, in Ferris Bueller's Day Off. And that is my pick.
And he's an actual economist. I think
I think he's speechwriter for George Bush and economic advisor, stuff like that. And then went on to get Jimmy Kimmel his start of his career with When Ben Stein's Money. That's where Jimmy Kimmel was.
He was the host.
He was the host.
Oh man, that's some Comedy Central deep.
That was before SNL.
There. Thanks a lot, Ben Stein.
For you said Jimmy
Kimmel, not
Kimmel, not Jimmy Fallon,
okay.
bro.
Yep.
Come on, we don't talk about Jimmy Fallon on this podcast.
I was just gonna say, Jimmy Fallon is too. Jimmy Kimmel is okay.
Unless we're talking about Fever Pitch, we don't fucking talk about him, okay?
Do we really want to talk about him? Fever Pitch?
He's seen Fever Pitch.
My brother loves that movie for some reason. I have no clue why.
I know, yeah. Nick nailed that one.
All right, Nick, you get to get the third round final pick and then the fourth round first pick.
Okay, well, I'm going with our girl, Michelle Pfeiffer.
Yeah, gotta.
Holding it down in the classroom, changing the youths.
What's crazy is how she was married to the guy in that movie, Mekhi Phifer, right? They were hitched.
Hitched.
I'm just kidding. We're
gonna have to do 8 Mile one day on the spot.
And on the wraparound.
Wouldn't that be crazy if Mekhi Phifer got his last name because he like picked out a stage name, but he like really liked Michelle Pfeiffer, and he was just like, man, what's like gonna be a super cool name? Like Mekhi, it's like just super like street and hardcore, and then like Pfeiffer, you know. Pfeiffer. Sorry, go ahead.
It works. It flows.
Do we know her teacher name so I can put on the list?
Yeah. Well, it's where's she at? Mrs. Johnson. Luann Johnson.
Coolio's lady friend.
probably the most boring movie name.
That is not a Mr. Hand.
I think that's her real name, and she was also based on a character, but she's no Jaime Escalante. So
Based on a real person.
Sorry, Louina Johnson, if it was based
on
your
a character.
Real life person.
Really hate that name they made up for her. Freaking boring ass bitch. Oh, she was a hero. Oh,
yeah, she was a Marine.
Purple Heart.
All right, your last pick.
Mm-hmm.
Highbrow cinephiles.
So, Zach, sorry you don't. You're not familiar with the movie. Coach Norman Dale of the Hickory High School basketball team. Gene Hackman.
Terrible pick.
So Nick's gonna win this draft, and I'm gonna be so pissed because every pick is like
gold.
Because every pick is so fucking pandering.
Gold.
You're like, how could he not win?
Every pick is a pick of somebody who was a teacher by like incidentally.
I did my research. I found out they were teachers. I didn't have to do research because I've seen the movies.
They were technically a teacher. There's no scenes of them teaching in the movies, but they were teachers.
Not true. Not true.
There's teaching certificates.
I have some comments on that one, but I don't want to say it because there's a slim chance that they got picked, but I'm not. Okay. I got some coach problems. All right. So my final pick is the correct Harry Potter professor, which is Professor Snape. I mean, he's teaching a lot more in the movies, and I mean, the dude is just amazing.
He's so good in everything.
Well, I mean, of course, rest in peace.
R.I.P.
But he he plays the bad guy in most of the movie, but really he's doing all the good things. He's trying to help out, and I was doing it all for the love of Harry's mom. So very nice. Spoiler alert.
I mean, I Snape is a great pick there. And he's a complicated character.
Yeah. I mean,
good teacher, man. He tells him he teaches him how to do real wizard.
I mean, he's certainly a bit of a Whiplash guy. He's a bit of a Fletcher, right? You know, if we're going to pick a Fletcher.
I think the Whiplash guy stays a douche the entire time, and Snape ends up being a good guy, right?
I know.
Yeah.
Spoiler alert.
Fletcher's a sociopath.
Well,
and we'll get into
talk
that.
about that.
We will get into that.
Okay, so Zach, you
all right. This is topical right now. Are you guys ready for this?
Ointment as in ointment.
Matt Dillon in the titular classic Wild Things, playing Mr. Lombardo.
Okay, so I won't tell.
Educator of the Year, Matt Dillon, just banging a 18-year-old Denise Richards, and I don't think it gets much better than that. This is going to get us canceled already, but that's good stuff.
I got to say, that wasn't even near my list, and I don't know how I didn't think about that, because that is a very memorable teacher.
Well, let me ask you this question. Is there any chance you would have come up with that if we hadn't had this text conversation today?
No chance. We talked about it. We talked about it at length earlier.
I will not. I refuse to explain the full text conversation. I will only say that it began by me finding a pair of ladies' very short jean shorts by my pool, assuming they were Zach's wife's, taking a snap picture, just immediately taking a picture of them, sending it to the group that included my wife, Zach, and his wife saying, hey, forgot your shorts. And my wife immediately responding and saying, I know that you thought those were hers because you were checking out her butt in her booty shorts by the pool, but babe, those are mine.
It was so funny, you guys.
Just some of the great stories and anecdotes you'll get to hear on this podcast.
And then
it devolved into
Wild Things,
into a debaucherous conversation about the movie Wild Things that both of our wives got to be privy to on the group
privy
text.
to, bro. They were driving the thing.
They were.
Right.
Okay, so my final pick. I don't know how do you follow that. There's a couple here. Do I want to go for the? Okay, all right. So I'm gonna
hang on, Brad. Nate, I got to just say one thing about Matt Dillon as the in the very opening scene of Wild Things, Matt Dillon's character, the one that in the greatest foreshadowing ever, the one that gets arrested for basically raping a student. He writes on the board. You know how the teachers always write in big letters what they're going to talk about in every movie, like that trope where they're just like, "Urgh." He writes sex crimes on the board and gives an amazing lecture about it.
On the nose.
And then
what did he
48 hours later has a threesome with a 17-year-old. That's his student.
What did he teach? Did they ever say it in the movie? I don't remember. I haven't seen that forever.
From my research, he teaches sex criminology.
as most high schools offer.
Big budget, that high school.
We need to expand our electives. What can we do?
Classes.
I know a lot about sex crimes.
I apologize. I just wanted to bring that up. Guys, I think I'm going to do a lecture about sex crimes. You're like, okay, all right.
Solid choice.
You're like, this will throw him off my trail.
Real pre-internet days.
Okay, with the final pick. I got to figure out the name. I screwed this up. So, in a movie that most of you have not seen, called The Edge of 17.
I have seen it.
Woody Harrelson in just another of his phenomenal roles.
Who's the main chick in that? Because it's a very good movie.
It is. Her name is Haley Steinfeld.
Haley Steinfeld.
She's great.
And you're right.
So
I like that pick a lot. I didn't even think
Woody Harrelson plays a Mr. Bruner, and he's not in the movie a ton, but he's like just in perfect. He's perfect Woody. I mean, like he just does. He's sort of unexpected, a little bit irreverent.
I want to say he's rocking a comb over. Maybe it's. It's
I remember
quite
that.
going to.
But like you get this. I mean, it's partly the writing, right? But it's like you get this vibe for a second, like you're thinking he's gonna like take advantage of this girl, and then he shows up at home and his wife's there and his baby. And it's like clear that he's like a genuine, like really caring teacher, but he's like not full of shit. And
they
it's great.
Definitely set it up to like, oh my, you're like, oh no, Woody's gonna be a piece of shit. Woody's gonna Matt Dillon this chick.
That's exactly what I was thinking.
So, who are some of our non-draftees that deserve some recognition? The to be named later players. I've got a couple here. So, Miss Cross from Rushmore. I was very much thinking about picking her. Plays an instrumental role in that movie, and basically leads the whole thing. I mean, she kind of blends the two parts together between the young kid and the Bill Murray's character. So.
Bridget Wilson Sampras, Mrs. Vaughn, Veronica Vaughn, Billy Madison.
That's a classic.
Veronica Vaughn. Want to touch the hiney? If you want to know how old we are, that's how old we are. We are
Veronica Vaughn.
Look at all this milk. You want some of this milk?
We are Billy Madison quote old.
Oh, I love it. I got Sharon Norbury from Mean Girls. This is
yes. Is that Tina Fey's character?
Tina Fey, yeah.
I had that on my list.
That one I almost it was that one or Michelle Pfeiffer or McGonagall in that pick. So
as a teacher, Jim McAllister from the movie Election. I mean, taking down or attempting to take down the kid that's just the know-it-all, Miss Perfect. I think every teacher in their career has that point where they're like, this kid just thinks they're way too cool, and I need to bring him down.
I think you're too cool for school.
Exactly. You say that. You think that exact thought in your mind.
So here's one that I really wonder if you guys have seen it. Have you guys seen the movie 187 with Samuel L. Jackson?
I have not.
He's a principal, though, right?
He's a teacher.
I thought he was the principal.
I believe he's a teacher. I could be wrong.
Russell Crowe.
Trevor Garfield.
John Nash, Beautiful Mind. That was gonna work my way.
That's a good one.
Yeah. And you guys know I held back. very much. Just maybe I should go with my heart more for the draft. But leaving Freddie Shoop out from summer school really made me sad.
I'm appalled.
I know.
You made us watch that shit. And
that was like
put him in your.
That was like your third.
You guys were like, "Oh, he's taking him first round."
Brad locked up.
I was like, better not pick Mark Summers. Brad's going to be super pissed.
Oh, going back to the coach from Hoosiers, I think there's actually, and it's very much more clear that he's a teacher, is Coach Calhoun from Grease, who tries to get John Travolta's character. He's the PE teacher, and he's trying to get him to play all these different sports, and it's just not working out. And I think Coach Calhoun deserves some credit as a teacher.
So here's what's funny. When I was sort of saying that, like, there's some this draft didn't go as deep for me as I thought, but if you jump to TV. Like, it's an incredible list.
Is the Friday Night Lights coach a teacher?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's good.
But I mean, Walter White is a teacher, right? Like,
yeah.
We've got. There was another one I was just thinking of that is. Yeah.
What about the teacher? I guess he was sort of a counselor
from.
Mr. Feeney, bro.
Yeah.
Oh, the Wonder Years has a dozen teachers in them that are memorable.
There's Mr. Belvedere. I guess he's a principal. Does that count? See,
Is it?
it's tough.
Wait,
Mr.
Belvedere's a butler.
That's admin. That's
Oh,
admin.
Mr. Belvedere. What's the
Mr. Belding from
Mr. Belding? That's who I was thinking of. Mr. Belvedere. He's a principal.
Mr. Belding is the
in his
principal.
office.
Belding. But there was one with
No admin, bro.
Hey, this is the kind of just A+ content you're gonna get here at Bev's Video.
Kenny from Half Baked is a kindergarten teacher, and he actually they show him in the classroom, and he was just the most loving kindergarten teacher maybe of all time. So
Good.
yeah. Anyway, I'm just saying, like, when it threw me for a loop because I kept wanting to go to the TV bin, but.
What about the guy that plays the counselor in Adventureland? Do you remember that? Isn't the counselor in Adventureland, or am I thinking of a different?
No,
movie?
dude, Adventureland.
Counselor.
It's only a theme park. We only get characters that work at theme park.
God, what movie am I thinking of? This is A+ content.
Okay. All right. So, are we good on the draft? Are we going to send it off to our judge and have him marinate a little bit on that?
Oh, it's not that. It's the counselor from Freaks and Geeks. That's what I'm thinking of.
Oh, yeah.
TV shows again. You with friggin' TV shows.
If you haven't watched Freaks and Geeks, I hate you.
All right, and we are on to want to first welcome our special guest. We gave you a little teaser to start the show in our intro with Nate. Scott Beck of Central Valley's own Flying Blind. Welcome, Scott. Thanks for being here, man.
Thanks for having me.
You are a professional in all ways, and specifically
debatable
as our judge here at Bev's, which is the top of our list as far as your profession and drummer.
I don't want to make some room on your resume at this point for it's
podcast guest /
probably line one
rock star drummer.
we're hoping at some point it'll be like Flying Blind is at the bottom, and up here is guest judge for Bev's Video Kingdom podcast.
I would love it. Like I told you guys, I'm more excited for this than I am our show this Saturday.
We got starry eyes.
Yeah.
Frankly, I'm looking forward to the day when Flying Blind has one of us on stage and is like, we're just honored to have one of the Bev's Video Kingdom guys.
They just stopped the show to let us do our pod.
You guys just come on and just talk a little shit for like.
It'll be live Bev's Video Kingdom podcast and Flying Blind.
Flying Blind.
So Scott's leaving right now. Thank you for being here, Scott. I appreciate you.
It was fun.
But Scott, I mean, I've grown like Nate said in the intro. We've all grown up in the small town Central Valley, and I've grown up watching Scott from a very young age. When at the very birth of Flying Blind, backyard playing, and I've just known Scott for a very long time. We all have, and we all look up to him. He's an amazing musician. He's not just a drummer, and he plays. I mean, how many other instruments do you play, Scott?
Well, I mean, I dabble with a little bit of everything: guitar, piano, bass, and if you don't mind a little small plug, I actually just recorded my own solo album.
Oh, dude,
that's going to be out next month, depending on when people hear this, in June. Or July.
Did you play all the instruments on the album?
I played every instrument and sang
That's
every
my
part.
favorite thing in the whole world.
That's so
pretty heavy auto-tune stuff, like a lot of that. Really
Zero
really
auto-tune. No auto-tune was harmed in the making of this album.
Heavily influenced.
I heard it's
going
going to be a K-pop album. Yeah.
But with a little bit of hometown twang to it.
I like it. That's awesome.
Central Valley K-pop.
Amazing, and your niece designed the album cover.
Yes, she did. Yeah,
inspiring artist.
Yes.
Yeah.
And you know her is one of your students, and
absolutely.
I was so happy with the album cover, and yeah, it's exciting. It's Scotch Beck is the name I'm going by.
Awesome
for that. And so,
does the album have a name? Is there
the name of the album is The Ballad of Bosco Jenkins.
Yeah, I love that, dude.
All right.
Well, when you actually pop it off, let's we'll get you. We'll put a little. We'll play a little here on the Bevs.
Oh yeah,
we'll definitely get some plugs.
I would appreciate that.
So Scott, I have questions because I am not. You might say I'm the least sort of musically knowledgeable of the group.
Okay.
And I'm very curious about what how realistic is the proficiency in Whiplash? So like it's supposed to make it out as though, he's sort of like elite, truly world level with this like solo at the end. So is your take that he's that, like, is what we're watching, if we were to take it as like, if we were in the audience and we were watching that,
right?
How good is that?
So, and that's something that, sometimes I hate it because when I watch movies that have bands or musicians or whatever, I get distracted really easily if it's really bad. You know, I'm watching fingers on fretboards on the guitars, you know, and so I notice everything. One of my favorite movies ever is That Thing You Do because they're so accurate. That's cool. It's really, I've watched it so many times, and I'm still not sure if they're actually really playing those instruments or not. So I watched this one carefully because I had to, because I'm automatically drawn to that. And I think Miles Teller did a great job. Like, there was times when, and I know he actually can play the drums.
Yeah, we talked about that earlier in the pod. He's
legit.
Yeah.
And but I know he had a double, you know, that played the rest of it. So
definitely.
But absolutely. And so I was really impressed, as much as I hate Miles Teller.
He's got a very hateable face.
I said this last night to somebody. I said he's got the most punchable face in Hollywood.
And what's so funny, topically topical drop here is that he was on vacation with Aaron Rodgers and his new lady friend. I
saw it.
And got punched in the face.
Really?
When he was out to dinner. He was just out to dinner. He said he was just out to dinner and somebody punched him in the face. And I was like, makes sense. Yeah. This is fucking par for the course for this dude.
I love me some Miles Teller.
I bet you it's not the first time.
I love me some Miles, bro.
But nothing against his acting. And I'm sure maybe he's a great guy. I don't know.
So, but if you were like let's say this wasn't a movie, right? I guess what I'm saying is, like, if somebody really put that performance on, it was real. Like, is it that good? Is that hard? Is it that hard to do that?
I thought it. Yeah, it's amazing drumming. I mean, well, jazz drumming is a whole other level of, you know, drumming, and what part that was weird was when he's like doing that whole just like, they call it the double time swing or whatever. Just sounded like a big mess. That was kind of weird to me. And I was like,
it sounded terrible, right?
It sounded terrible.
When they kept being like having the guys go over and over and over and over again, I was like, they all sound like shit. Like, what is this supposed to sound like?
Yeah, but the solo at the end, I thought it was cool. It's been a long time since I've seen the movie, but I remember thinking that's pretty amazing.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right.
That helps. And then as far as the double time swing, the technical side of that. Is he actually literally tapping every single tap, or is he actually tapping and letting the stick like roll to like continue?
It's straight up roll with the one hand.
But he's still moving it like crazy fast as he can, and it's still tapping.
It's instead of each time using your arm to hit the thing, correct?
Right.
You actually bounce it, and it kind of bounces itself.
It's controlled. It's almost controlled chaos in a way. It's like your hand goes down one. So one thing we work on is a double stroke roll, not to get too nerdy into musical stuff, but it's so like a double stroke roll. Your wrist goes down once, the stick actually bounces twice. Yeah. So
and that's how you get the drum roll super
fast. That was
fast.
what I was going to ask for. Like, it also is not to get off subject. The next question is about the opening. When the movie opens and it's black, and it builds with that drum, and it gets like extremely fast.
Right.
What I was just curious of is like, is that just a normal thing that drummers can do to get to that speed, or is that like an actual? Okay, so that was like a normal.
Yeah, I'd kind of forgotten how that starts. So he's actually practicing.
And it builds. It starts to.
But that's a very basic, like, that's 8th graders are doing that.
But like to that, is there like a
that's
certain
the basic
speed,
rudiment?
Like, so like that's just a normal.
So basically, yeah, you start. And you start speeding up, and then at one point it's gonna just start getting a big old mess, and then you kind of slow it down and get it to where you can play it fast and normal.
Okay.
And then there's even a buzz roll, which is actually even less controlled, and you're just kind of letting it
throwing it at the drum.
So that's like the rolls you hear, like, you know, in the marching band. A lot of that's buzz rolls. Then the double rolls is kind of more of an open thing, and I'm getting really nerdy.
No, this is what I was. I want.
Yeah.
I want.
We're gonna get nerdier. So
yeah.
I got a quick question for you because this movie has and you gotta just tell me. Is there an unusual amount of blood in this movie for being a drumming movie? Because have you developed calluses after playing for
bleed a lot on
for 40 years? I mean,
well, yeah, you know, I happen to have a Band-Aid on my. This is not from drumming.
Let the audience know Scott has a Band-Aid.
Well, and let's let the audience know that he is a farmer / drummer. So this dude works with his hands constantly.
Yeah, that was from farming. But yeah, no, I mean, absolutely. You know, when it's really hot, your hands blister fast. It's like you're out there drumming, and it's amazing how quickly. I remember Brewfest that we did a few years ago, and it was super hot outside, and I just had gnarly blisters on.
So you think the introduction of moisture is
absolutely, you're sweating. It can absolutely happen if he's playing as many hours as he has to play at this elite music school. He's probably got some blisters going. Okay. But again, if he's been playing that long, he probably should have some calluses.
Right.
So it's a little bit, it's one of those things where I kind of go, really?
Movie.
I'm going to be the best drummer in the world. However, if I play for more than 32 minutes, I bleed
profusely.
Exactly.
So that's what I read an article getting ready for the pod, and the guy just shitting all over the movie and saying that if he had the right technique, he shouldn't be bleeding the way that he's like bleeding or getting blisters. So it sounds like that's a little bit of just hating and a little bit of bullshit.
That's a little bit of hate thrown in there. I mean, again, and it's Hollywood. Of course, they're going to make it look dramatic because he's practicing so hard, he's bleeding.
Right.
This goes back to my earlier point of how much actual teaching of music does this man do in the movie? Zero.
I think once you get into that school...
Who drafted him?
Right.
Yeah. Great fucking teacher that does nothing but curse and call his students the F.
We actually can't say who did.
I have.
Yeah, we got to keep quiet here.
We got to keep
quiet because speaking of...
On to it. Let's get to this.
Well, actually, I have one more question. Sorry.
Okay.
You were a music major.
I was.
And the last question was, did you have any experience with any professors or teachers that obviously didn't touch this, but anything close?
Well, yeah. I mean, this is definitely, this guy is
ridiculous.
Would be arrested.
Yeah.
And,
he would get his ass beat.
But it made for a great movie. And what was crazy is I honestly had an uneasy feeling throughout the movie just because it did bring back some, not necessarily, an exact example of that, but the pressure that you have as a music major is pretty intense. And so I was in the wind ensemble at Fresno State, and really amazing band. And the professor, Dr. Lawrence Sutherland, amazing, but
Donald's brother.
No, I don't think they're related. I wish they were. He was so intense, and like if you messed up in the middle of rehearsal, he'd stop everything, and he would just literally, he'd ask you to do it again. And fortunately, I was never on the receiving end of this because I saw what happened to somebody else, some horn or somebody screwed up. He's like, okay, play that. And you could hear everything. He's like, okay, hey, third horn, play this. And they'd play it, and they'd just totally blow it. It's like, how come you can't play it? What's wrong? And it's like, oh, I got finals, and I couldn't rehearse. Like, you're wasting all our time right now. When you walk in this room, you need to be, and he just totally just ate their ass in front of everybody, and it was super embarrassing.
Called them a bunch of gay slurs, right?
Not quite.
No?
They
talked about their absentee mothers.
No. So like I said, so that feeling of that happening was with me in this movie, obviously not to the level of the gay slurs and whatever. But what sucked about it was I was sitting there going, okay, well, I was also sitting there going, this would never happen in real life. This is kind of bullshit,
But it did invoke that feeling, though.
Absolutely. And it did make us. It made me practice my ass off because I never wanted to be that guy. So it's weird because you think, okay, there's no way that's a teaching technique that would ever work.
It totally works.
Totally works.
Oh, yeah.
I mean,
we talked about this earlier in the pod some, right? Like I made this exact point, but we won't rehash it. But I think that your story is consistent with some of what we were talking about.
Yeah.
Well, and that's why the director, he created the movie because of his years as a musician because of his horrible experiences with a teacher that he can't get over, and he had to. It was catharsis for him to make the movie of dealing and actually facing these demons that he had from his like traumatizing experiences,
right?
Which were way more, it sounds like, violent than yours, but still yours obviously like stayed with you.
Yeah, and I take that and take them into Flying Blind rehearsals now. Yeah. But I actually am like JK and I call them all kinds of names, and I beat the crap out of everybody.
probably my brother most of the
time.
And Andrew gets all the gay slurs.
He gets the cowbell out, and it's right next to
bang. Andrew, why weren't you practicing? Oh, I was playing NHL 2007.
Did you score?
No, he doesn't even play the game.
Score?
He just manages it. He manages his roster.
Oh, my bad.
Oh, dude.
All right, I just want to get that. That's good stuff. Thanks.
All right.
Yeah.
All right, let's get to it, man. I want to hear some results.
The harsh truth.
Yeah, we had a 4-round draft and memorable teachers.
All right.
Just speak out.
Let's
think
just
out loud.
run through each team and you just give us short.
Give us the rundown.
Give us short thoughts.
First initial.
Okay. So, team 1. Jaime Escalante, Stand and Deliver. Fletcher from Whiplash. Professor McGonagall from Harry Potter. And Mr. Bruner, The Edge of 17. Let me go through all the teams first.
No.
Now thoughts on
what do you think of that team? I mean, it's pretty terrible in my opinion.
Let's start with Escalante. Escalante, deserving number 1 pick.
So
one of one.
First of all, I made my list after you guys mentioned, what the topic was going to be, and Jaime Escalante was easily would be one of my first picks, and that's absolutely. Remember that movie in school all the time. I actually watched it about 3 weeks ago. It came on. I was like, oh my God, I haven't seen this movie forever. It's great. So that's a solid number 1 pick. Great out of the gate. Fletcher from Whiplash. Very memorable. And it's memorable teachers, right? Not good.
Memorable.
Right. Memorable. I mean, that's very, very memorable. But again, personally, I didn't really like him because he's a dick. But also for the sake of this argument, he's a great pick. Professor McGonagall, Harry Potter. I'm not the biggest Harry Potter guy in the world, and I'm not exactly sure who that is. But I think it's the old lady.
You're telling me a 40-year-old farmer who plays drums in a rock band doesn't watch Harry Potter? Is that what you're telling me right now?
I did watch the first movie.
I did not see that.
Blowing my mind.
Well, if that blew your mind, this is really going to blow your mind. I don't even know what the Edge of 17 is. So that's gonna hurt the draft a little bit for this person. What is that movie?
It's a great movie, and that's not my team, but I just have
coming of age movie.
Is it a coming of age movie?
It's Woody Harrelson is the.
Oh, well, I'm interested now. I love Woody Harrelson. Okay. Anyway, I mean, if they would have picked Mrs. Norbury from Mean Girls right there, I mean that'd be. I'd know that.
She was an honorable mention.
Damn it.
Yeah. Okay. Anyway. So, number 2, John Keating, Dead Poets Society. Okay, this is going to blow your mind. I've never seen that movie.
Oh, my God.
But...
there goes my chance.
I know.
Shut up, dude. Jesus.
But
this draft is void and null.
Hanging Chad.
Just because I haven't seen it, I know, Oh Captain, My Captain. It's just epic. So that's an amazing first pick. John Kimball, amazing. It's just amazing.
It's a great pick.
Tom Berenger's Substitute. I've actually seen The Substitute late one night, and that movie's horrible. But
Berenger.
I remember
Berenger.
Berenger. It's not as bad as The Principal. He's the principal, man. But yeah, similar kind of movie. And Mr. Lombardo Wild Things is an amazing pick. I mean, for pick 4. Round 4, that's okay. That's a good one. That's a good team. Unfortunately, since you gave your team away. Anyway, Mr. Hand was definitely on my list. Anytime you have a catchphrase, aloha, Mr. Hand, that definitely is going to give you some bonus points. That's a great first round pick. Dewey Finn, School of Rock. I mean, Jack Black can't go wrong. Economics teacher Bueller. Another catchphrase. This whoever picked this team is all about the catchphrases. And then Professor Snape. I do know Snape. Harry Potter again. That is a very, 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 very solid team. Okay, now whoever picked number 4, I like it because you're very sneaky. And I have a feeling that somebody else hates it because I heard you earlier. But
sneaky snake.
And what I like about it is I had one of these guys on my list. I think that
about you.
So these guys aren't known for being a teacher, but they're totally teachers.
100%.
I sorry, you said totally, but you meant technically. I think you used the wrong word.
The word you were looking for was barely.
Not totally like as
formally speaking, they are teachers.
Well, Indiana Jones is a teacher.
Technically.
He's a working teacher.
Okay.
He gets paid to teach.
They show him in the class.
Sean McGuire was on my list, and I thought I was being sneaky.
Technically.
So,
also paid.
Also technically.
To teach.
Loanne Johnson, Dangerous Minds. Yeah, I never saw the movie, but I know who that is.
You're missing nothing.
And then Coach Norman Dale, Hoosiers. And I don't want to get into a big Hoosiers talk right now, but I think he's one of the worst coaches in the history of
You can say
movies.
it's terrible.
He doesn't
Zach's the
coach
guy to talk
in
to
that movie.
about.
That's the guy to talk to about.
I've got a
Hoosiers.
take on Hoosiers.
So anyway, we won't get into that right now. Okay.
And by take, he has not seen it, Scott. Just to clarify.
I've never seen Hoosiers. Oh my god.
So
Amazing.
terrible.
I'm hiding out over here because I've never seen it either. It was on the TV. I was eating
forgot
dinner
that.
just recently at some little place, and it
taking
was
it.
on. I was like, oh, this is the most I've watched of it.
You are
Okay.
I was taking it easy because of the Shawshank.
So, okay, do I go into the, or do you guys want to hear my list now or after I'm done?
Yeah, let's hear some of yours.
My list now? Okay. So, my list, best teachers. Okay, so I had Jaime Escalante, and then I had Mr. Hand, Sean, from Sean McGuire, Good Will Hunting. Okay, so those are the ones I had were the same. So I had, and John Kimball. So what you guys didn't pick was Miss Veronica Vaughn.
She was mentioned.
So hot. I want to touch the hiney. Yep. Associate Professor Newman from Wet Hot American Summer.
Oh, dang it.
He saves the freaking world.
Exactly.
It's amazing.
It's an amazing. If you haven't seen that movie,
I have.
Smoke Something. Check it out.
It is it's
So
classic.
good. Let's see. Mr. Holland. Mr. Holland's Opus.
He was there.
Now, of course,
Terrible movie.
It's a terrible movie.
It's a terrible movie.
I was in the music program at Fresno State when that movie came out, so I was kind of like, "Oh my god, a movie for us!" You know, and it was just horrible. And at the end, no band. I don't care how many rehearsals you get in of formal high school players are going to sound like Michael Kamen's orchestra. It just doesn't. It makes no sense at all. Let's see, and then I had Professor Turgeson, Sam Kinison from Back to School.
Ooh.
Oh, damn.
Talk about a memorable teacher. So anyway, those are kind of some of my picks. So back to your guys' draft here. Okay, I'm gonna go ahead and disqualify Team 1 right now because I don't know the last movie. I'm sorry, and I'm not a big Harry Potter fan. Okay,
Bye-bye. Four's going next.
I'm going to have to ask you to leave the draft.
The draft room.
oh man,
Going to have to eliminate the team with no actual teachers on it.
okay. I want to get rid of Team 2 just because of the substitute, but I can't because pick 1 is so great. John Kimball is so great, and Mr. Lombardo was such a sneaky pick. I didn't even think of it. It's awesome.
I want half credit for that shit.
He got canceled before it was cool.
What I like 3 because it's just so solid across the board. 4 has this asterisk next to it that is kind of affecting it.
Glaring is the word.
Glaring. And I was gonna because I don't want you guys to sit here all night.
Cut it. Just
Team 3.
Yeah.
Team 3.
Love
He's
it.
the winner.
Love it.
Bradley.
I'll take it. I'll take the victory. I appreciate all of my teachers.
I admit that yours is a pretty darn.
That was a
good
very
list.
solid.
It's the consistency
Yeah.
that the substitute killed you on that one. I mean, it's fine, it's memorable, but I mean, how many people have actually seen it?
Right, stupid pick, right?
I like that you've seen that in Not Dead Poets Society. That makes me happy.
Well,
Yeah.
the fact that Brad managed to not pick Mark Summers from Back to School or from Summer School.
Mark Harmon, not Mark
Harmon.
Summers. Mark
Harmon.
That would have been a great pick, Mr. Shoop.
I left him off, and I think
That kind of discipline is how you win.
That's
drafts.
true. That was discipline of me for sure.
All right. Well, Brad wins the first official draft with and he's 1-0 over all the rest of us.
Nice work, Brad. Nice work.
I may go undefeated.
So, Scott, are you willing to kind of be a semi-regular guest for us?
I'll do this anytime you guys want.
Yeah,
this.
we
Yes,
so we
I'm
think Scott is certainly our premium guest. We're probably going to rotate in a few so as to not burden his celebrity too much.
How many people are in Flying Blind?
We'll just
Can we get that dreamy Mr. Green in here?
Oh,
He doesn't talk much, but he's good to look at.
Hey, well, we didn't say anything about talking. We're just going to have him stand in the corner and,
This will be the first video
off his
podcast.
abs.
Can you take your shirt off?
He could hold the results up in the corner.
Well, what's great is that we got Scott here as the drummer, but we actually have 2 current teachers on Flying Blind. So
That's right.
Yeah.
could have got their opinions, but that's all right.
Very true.
All right. Well, is that a wrap, fellas?
I think it's a wrap.
Thank you so much, Scott.
Yeah, thanks, Scott.
Thanks for coming, man.
Thanks for having me. I
really,
appreciate it.
really appreciate it. And
Yeah, hey, we will for sure let us know when that album's coming out. We can
Yes.
see, we can get some play on here.
July 27th is the actual
Okay,
launch.
well, yeah.
Will it be available on Spotify?
It'll be available on every streaming
All the streaming
platform.
platform?
I even made some CDs. See if you want to put your beers on them, because
And it's
Who buys
Scotch
Scotch
Beck, and it's
And the name of the album again.
The Ballad of Bosco Jenkins.
such a great name. Talk about good names. Hey, so are we gonna? You got the next week's situation?
I do.
I want to hear it. I'm so excited.
So next week's movie, is going to be a classic.
Oh,
What a classic from
I'm never gonna have even heard of it.
It is a movie starring my favorite, Matthew McConaughey.
Oh,
And the movie is Frailty.
oh, I don't think I've heard of it. Is he an alcoholic?
I've heard.
Has anybody seen it?
I have seen parts.
One of my favorites. Top 15 movie for me.
I love McConaughey. Am I going to be scared? Do I need to watch this in the daytime?
You're going to need to watch it in chapters. So you're going to want to watch the
That's
first
not-
15 minutes. and then take a break.
Mini series or like full
Change a diaper.
episodic?
Maybe go teach a class and then come back.
I tend to binge movies. Like I'll watch, in 17 segments. So
Nate watches movies in 15 parts.
And, he
And then he's
doesn't
like,
watch-
man, this movie was really disjointed, and I didn't really get it. And I'm like,
It was so long. It took me 7 days to finish it.
All right, so Frailty, and what's the draft category? Since I have no idea what the movie's about, is it best things that McConaughey says in movies?
draft category is to be determined.
No, what?
I didn't know I was going to have to come up with it.
Wait, say that into the microphone.
I knew I had to have
come
a
up with
movie.
one.
I didn't know I had to have a draft
Shithead.
category. We're going to pause the pod, and we're going to come up with a draft category. And we'll be back in a few minutes.
All right.
I wanna be at Beverly's, bringing me home with my movies, just a blind ride, no reason why. I love this scene. Nick Nate, I can brag your favorite podcast. Let's start this thing.